Some folks have a strange idea of entertainment.
I'm Will Lastly,
Alex Maynard,
and we're just a couple of guys who love horror movies.
big horror fans. We both got into it at different points in our lives. We both love different things about the genre.
Yeah, we were introduced to each other by another horror fan. It's a friend of ours.
Very small world. Will, how were you introduced to horror?
I was not into horror as a kid. I was very easily scared and had real weird specific triggers. I was still not yet diagnosed as being autistic, and we didn't really know what an anxiety disorder was. Like, it was my mental health had yet to really be fully understood, and so all we really knew was that I was easily scared of weird specific things, and like the Monster Mash scared me. I was scared of the song "The Monster." Like, again, it's so bizarre. I mean, I first heard it when I was in kindergarten, but yeah, I don't know. I didn't understand the camp of it, I guess, but so I was not into scary stuff as a kid, but I guess once I really started to get a little bit too used to like Scooby-Doo and stuff like that, I was like, I kind of want to see something that's actually a little bit scary. And I was also very sheltered as a kid as far as what I was allowed to watch. So I remember I was probably 12-ish, something like that, when I rented Poltergeist, and which is a great starter horror film. I think it was, it's early '80s PG. It would be PG-13 today, but even then, it's fairly tame. There's not much cursing in it. There's no gore, but it's and I think it still really holds up personally.
It's been a long time since I've seen that movie, so I'd have to give it a rewatch before I could effectively judge it.
That one's still in my top 30 horror movies, but but yeah, I saw that, and the movie that made me a horror fan was The Evil Dead, the first movie.
Nice.
Evil Dead 2 is now my favorite horror movie of all time. But I had been told by friends.
Talk real quick about The Evil Dead. We probably can't see your shirt, but his shirt says directed by Sam Raimi.
Because that is the kind of Evil Dead fan that I am. I paid like $200 for the VIP meet and greet with Bruce Campbell at a convention one time. I had leftover graduation money, and I was like, hell yes, I'm going to do this to meet Bruce Campbell. Super nice guy. He, like, when he's on stage at like Q&As and stuff like that, he has this character, I'm big shot Hollywood actor Bruce Campbell, where he's really smug and is roasting the audience and everything. When you meet him like face to face, like in meet and greets and autograph lines, he's super sincere.
That's great.
Yeah, it's good to know that is, who he really is. But I heard from people, it's a horror movie, but it's funny. And I was expecting something more like Ghostbusters or something like that. I didn't realize the humor was in how dark it was, like really dark humor, and the humor was how like over the top it was. So I found it for like 50 cents on like video cassette, because it was when our library was trying to liquidate all their tapes, and I still had a VCR in my room, and so I got it and watched it, and it just kind of blew my mind. Like, it was just I never knew how much I never really knew how much I could enjoy a horror movie, and I think the fact that there was a lot of dark humor in it made it a little more palatable and kind of helped me work up to more serious horror. And now I just love, and again, a lot of my favorite horror movies tend to be the really over the top, a little bit campy, the sort of oddball horror stuff. Like I said, my favorite horror movie of all time is Evil Dead 2, and I love like Creepshow and The Frighteners and The Howling and
And we keep talking about how I need to watch The Frighteners.
Yeah, because that's like...
Because I haven't seen it yet.
That's like my number 4 horror movie, personally. It's so fun. It's...
well, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who judge you on that because that's more horror comedy, but that's what makes horror so great, is that it's very... It's very objective.
And it's very multifaceted. There's so many different types of horror, and I still think...
Well, and that's what draws me to it, as to opposed to a drama or romantic comedy.
Yeah.
There's, like, I'm not going to go as far out and say they're one-dimensional, but...
There's not, like... There's not several different types, like several different subtypes. And most horror comedies, if I had to pick one, I would typically say horror. Would be more horror, or like would be categorized as a horror movie as opposed to a comedy. There are a few that I would just go ahead and put with comedy, like again, something like Ghostbusters or Shaun of the Dead. Those I would just consider to be straight comedies. But it's a weird fine line that again is very subjective.
True.
But yeah, but you got into horror very differently from me.
I got into horror way too young.
Yeah.
I should not have been watching what I was watching. I was probably somewhere between 6 and 8 years old when I first saw Michael Myers on television.
Jesus.
Well, I was very much raised with the whole you can see whatever you want on TV as long as there's no nudity.
Yeah.
And the Halloween movies really didn't have a whole lot of nudity, just a lot of violence.
Yeah. The nudity that was in them was even pretty tame.
Very tame and usually off camera.
Yeah, like you saw, like the first one, you had a few boobies in it, just in the opening, and then one of Laurie's friends.
Yes. But
they're fairly tame, honestly.
Yes, fairly tame.
For being an R-rated horror movie, they're fairly tame.
But yeah, I was like somewhere between 6 and 8 years old. I remember my parents watching this Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers on VHS. I even remember and almost every VHS tape had trailers.
Trailers at the beginning.
Had trailers at the beginning before the actual movie. I still remember the trailers.
Yeah.
Before the movie actually started. It was like Hellraiser 4, Children of the Corn 4, some comedy that Chris Cooper was in has like a serious dad type character.
Chris Cooper?
Chris Cooper, yeah.
Really?
I can't remember the name. I don't think it was necessarily a comedy, but it was some type of movie with him in it. But it wasn't horror.
Right.
But yeah, I remember the build up to it, and
yeah.
I remember the opening.
There were trailers for crappy horror sequels, like preceding the crappy horror sequel.
Hey, I will defend Hellraiser 4 at another time.
There's way worse.
There's so much worse in that series.
But we're not getting to that one today.
No, not today. Way too many to cover. But I remember I don't even remember the opening sequence of Halloween 6, watching it as a kid for the first time.
Yeah.
The first thing I remember that sticks out in my mind is when you first see Michael Myers appear from the shadows.
Yeah.
And something about that, of the face just like suddenly appearing, or you see him walking and the blank mask coming into the background in the dark.
Which is one of the things that the movie did pretty well.
Something about his look in that movie is phenomenal. It's probably the reason why I love it so much. And then when he grabs that nurse and slams her against whatever it was against the wall, some kind of spike.
Yeah.
I was hooked. The music kicked in, and I was in. I was in for the ride, and I remember I would watch that movie probably a little too obsessively.
Yeah.
Because I was a kid. It wasn't easy. It was not hard for me to obsess over things.
Right.
And something about it finally scared me after seeing it a million times already. And
just like something did like the subtext of something kick in or something like
I
that?
think it was more the gravity of the situation.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it.
This guy's killing people, and I think as a kid I didn't quite understand that.
The permanence of death and stuff like that.
Yeah, the permanence of death. I think something about it finally stuck with me when, because I remember the specific kill that got me to stop, and that was when he kills Deborah Strode with the axe in the backyard.
Yeah.
Just, when she pulls down the sheet and he's standing there with the axe, and I remember it, and that screech that they put in the theatrical cut. Something about it got to me, and I stopped watching. And a couple years later, my dad is sitting down watching the original Halloween.
Yeah.
And he has me sit down and watch it with him because, he knows that I was into that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we watch it, and that kind of got me back into horror, and especially the slasher genre. I'm a huge fan of the slasher genre.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I was way too young. I don't recommend it. I have 2 kids. They are not. They're 6 and 4. They are not watching horror films for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I tease my girlfriend about it. But in all seriousness, they are way too young. We're not starting them off the way I did.
Right. So, we're going to be ranking the films, giving our own personal rankings of the films in just some of the more iconic horror franchises.
Cover Texas Chainsaw Massacre first.
So
I can talk about one of the worst movies I've ever had to sit through.
To get this out of the way.
To get it out of the way, because I hate this movie so damn much.
There are 8 movies in the series, and your number 8, your worst one, is a movie that you just hate so passionately.
There's so much potential, and they crap all over it. That's how I feel about this franchise in general. And the thing about Texas Chainsaw is that there's 2 all-time classics in this franchise. 2 movies that are, they're good. They're not classic, but they're good.
Yeah.
And then there's 4 just straight up dumpster fire trash. Some of them have redeemable qualities, or at least like a scene or 2 that are okay. But overall, the films are so bad. So bad.
Yeah.
And we're going to be ranking these from worst to first. I'm going to go ahead with my rankings first. At number 8, this movie I hate so much, Leatherface from 2017. I don't even know where to begin. I hate this movie.
Your hatred of this movie is entertaining to me.
I hate this movie. It feels like the first half of the movie is Bonnie and Clyde with a little Texas Chainsaw thrown in.
Right.
And then by the time we get to the third act, we finally get to Texas Chainsaw. But by the time we get there, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care about any of these characters. I don't care about any of these people. There's no logic to this movie. All the characters are bad. There's no redeemable character. The final girl is bland. And just the... Alright, I'm going to talk about this movie as calmly as I can. This is supposed to be a prequel to the first film.
Yeah.
A prequel. So it's already limiting itself.
Yeah.
And we start off with a little boy who turns out to be Leatherface, but he's just a little boy at this point, who lures this girl into a trap. She falls into a pit of spikes, and she basically bleeds out and dies. Well, her dad is the sheriff.
Yeah.
Who is obviously, and understandably so, enraged.
Yeah.
And this boy's family, the Sawyers, they're just, well, we didn't do it, and you can't prove it. But the way they act, and it's so obvious that they did it.
They're so smug.
They're so smug, and it's so obvious that they did it. And it's like the police know what they've been doing. The way that this conversation happens, it's like the police know that they've been killing people, and they just haven't had any proof.
Yeah.
And the sheriff, who just lost his daughter, tries to go after them, and his deputies are holding him back saying, you don't have any proof. You can't do it. How do you not have proof? There's a dead body And you have a witness.
Yeah.
A literal witness who saw with his 2 eyes. The witness is the girl's boyfriend.
Yeah.
Who literally sees this kid lure her away into a trap.
Yeah.
He sees the dead body and alerts the police. How's that not proof to put these people behind bars? But movie's got a movie, and somehow it's not.
Yeah.
And the sheriff goes to the matriarch. I don't even know her name, and I don't
remember.
I don't care to know her name because it's that bad. He goes to the matriarch, and he's all, "You take one of mine, I take all of yours." Except he took one. He only took the little boy. You didn't take anybody. You didn't take all of them. You took one kid. One kid.
Yeah.
And I will say, the movie has potential because it looks like the kid didn't want to do it in the first place. It was like he was forced to do it.
Yeah.
And we cut into the future where Leatherface is supposed to be a young adult, and we see this big, hulking, massive kid.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Who, spoiler alert, there are spoilers.
Yeah, we're going to be spoiling
The
these
big,
movies.
quiet kid who would obviously be Leatherface is not Leatherface. The guy who's Leatherface is a young, skinny, good-looking Texan boy.
It's kind of this Ted Bundy
You're
type.
Ted Bundy type. That's a great way to put it. And, all-American cowboy, charmer kind of deal.
Yeah, very Tex Watson, honestly.
Yeah, I would agree. But, oh, this movie's so bad. It gives me a headache talking about it. But, we meet some inmates in this asylum. They all have their names changed so the family can't find them. And the Sawyers are rich now somehow, by the way. I can't even remember how they got rich because this is how much I hate this movie.
I don't remember either.
I only try to remember the key details, and them getting rich, it's thrown in there. It's like a throwaway. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Big whoop. They have money now. Oh, I'm trying so hard.
Yeah, they have enough money to hire a lawyer. And
Yes, they hire a lawyer who they try to see the kid and they can't. They change the names. And anyway, we're just gonna cut to the breakout. There's a breakout.
Yeah.
Led by our Bonnie and Clyde characters.
Yeah.
And they kidnap a nurse. They kidnap Leatherface and his big hulking friend who's not Leatherface.
Right.
And they go on the run. They stop at a diner, and Bonnie and Clyde kill everyone at the diner for no reason whatsoever.
I don't even know if I'd say Leatherface and not Leatherface are kidnapped per se. Aren't they more like just kind of?
They're more along for the ride.
Yeah.
Which is another thing I don't understand. It's like they're being forced into it by Bonnie and Clyde. And I get that they don't have weapons.
Yeah.
But why are Bonnie and Clyde forcing 2 people to go with them who obviously don't want to be there?
Yeah.
That's just baggage holding you down.
Yeah.
This movie makes no sense.
Yeah.
They're inmates. Okay, they're out, but they don't have to stick with you. It's a lot easier to carry 2 people who obviously want to be on the run. And why do you still have the nurse?
Yeah.
Like, you're already on the run, and you're kind of being incognito until you blow it by killing a bunch of people in the diner. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. But yeah, they stop at a diner. Bonnie and Clyde are like getting all sexy with each other and inappropriate, and then they kill everyone in the diner for whatever reason. Yeah. And the Leatherface, not Leatherface, and the nurse just kind of sit there and let it happen.
Yeah.
They go back on the run, and Clyde is insulting not Leatherface, our big, hulking, massive guy, calling him stupid and all kinds of names. And in the middle of the night, not Leatherface, like, curb stomps his face and kills him.
Yeah.
Like, we're halfway through this movie, almost a third, we're almost into the final act of this movie.
And we've had our second kill. Well, our second kill of a like, known character.
Yeah, of a known character.
Not just, like, them going on a spree.
And, well, I would say it's about halfway. Not into the final act, but halfway through the movie, we're finally getting rid of our Bonnie and Clyde storyline by killing Clyde. And the police are on their tail. We still got the same sheriff who somehow knows that one of the escapees is Leatherface, which makes no... I guess that
I thought
makes
the whole
sense,
point was that they didn't, but at the same time, like...
I can understand why the sheriff would know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, how do you get that information so quick? But
right.
Whatever. The movie's got a movie. The next morning comes. Bonnie's looking for Clyde. I can't remember the name of the characters. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Like I only have to remember them by calling them Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Bonnie and Clyde or any iteration of the classic duo. But the sheriff catches up to Bonnie, captures her. He eventually kills her because she I think she says something about his daughter or like spits at him or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, something like that.
And the sheriff has one deputy that seems like he's a good dude.
Yeah.
And he's played by Iron Fist.
Oh yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Forgot that was Iron Fist.
Iron Fist is in this movie. And it's so bad. But he seems like he's the one good character in this film. And he is not a good character because he goes and lets the Sawyer family know, hey, the sheriff is going after your son. He's gonna capture him. He's gonna take him to this location, and then he accepts a bribe, and then they kill him and feed him to the pigs.
Yeah.
And they call him a pig.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Which that kind of works.
Given that he's a police officer.
Yeah, exactly.
I get what they were doing,
Yeah.
but it makes no sense for the time.
Stephen Dorff was the sheriff. I forgot.
Right? Like he's a pretty good actor.
Yeah.
And yet this movie is so bad it drags everyone down.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
All right, so Bonnie and Clyde are dead. Our nurse, Leatherface and not Leatherface, are on the run. And the nurse is an innocent character, and she flags down the police, which makes Leatherface and not Leatherface mad. Leatherface goes and tackles a cop. Not Leatherface goes and tackles a cop.
Yeah.
And he's like beating on him, and the cop shoots him in the head, and it's slow motion because we were meant to think that this was Leatherface the whole time.
Yeah.
And then Leatherface kills the cop, takes the nurse, puts her in a car, is making her drive for some reason, has her being hunted down by the sheriff, and the sheriff is shooting at their car, and Leatherface is screaming and yelling, and a bullet flies through and hits him in the jaw, and basically rips his whole jaw apart.
Yeah.
Which messes up his face, and they do the whole slow motion zoom in thing to make us like, oh, he's gonna be Leatherface. The movie doesn't even deserve this moment because it's so trash. Ugh, I hate this movie. I hate having to talk about this movie. I need a minute. I hate this film. Usually films I don't like this much have at least one redeemable thing. A scene, a kill, something. This movie's got nothing, and it takes itself way too seriously, which is why it's at the bottom of my list, which is a controversial pick for what is gonna come next.
Yeah.
But sheriff captures the nurse and Leatherface. Leatherface's family is chasing after them. And this is how... It's already been revealed that the sheriff is a douchebag, because, he was talking a lot of crap to Bonnie. But now it's kind of implicated that he's going to sexually assault the final nurse.
Yeah.
There's no good characters in this movie.
No. No,
And-
maybe the deputy, but even then it's like...
Well, it's like they build him up to be a good guy, and he turns out to be a douche.
Exactly.
But the Sawyers capture the sheriff and the final girl, and they're taking care of Leatherface, whose name is Jed, by the way.
Jedediah, yeah.
Well, we don't even get Jedediah.
Well, I know, I just mean that's what the name Jed is usually short for.
But we just get Jed. Jed! You know how many times they're hollering, let's go get Jed?
Yeah.
Stupid.
I mean, it's just, you can't not think about Beverly Hillbillies every time they say Jed.
Can we just... I know this is a different I believe this is a different movie for that. But can we just tear Eddie Murphy, plant him in this movie, and just have him say a line where I can't remember what movie it's from. Please help me with this. But he says, "I've never seen so many backward ass country fucks in my life."
Oh, what movie is that?
I can't remember, but this is how I feel about this movie. They're captured, and the final girl and the sheriff have a conversation. She's like, "What exactly were you planning on doing to me?" And he's just, "I don't know." Like he's Batman or something. Like, you know what you were going to do.
Yeah.
Sawyer's come out. Leatherface is all messed up. He has his chainsaw. He kills the sheriff. Final girl goes on the run. He chases her down. Somehow the matriarch is kept up with all this chasing around.
Yeah.
And
48 Hours. That's what it was. I was like, it's either 48 Hours or Beverly Hills Cop, and I couldn't remember, but yeah.
awesome.
Sorry.
No, you're
48
good,
Hours.
Please, can we just put Eddie Murphy in this horrible? Now they would probably make him look bad.
I don't know. I feel like it would be like the whole movie would almost in retrospect work because it would be like an entire build up to a single punchline. I feel like that almost kind of works. But
all right, well,
whatever.
We're near the end of the movie. Leatherface has our damsel in distress right where he wants her. He has the chainsaw. He's about to kill her, and she starts talking to him like, "Don't do this. There's still good in you. I know there's good in you." Talk to him like he's some kind of Texas Darth Vader.
Yeah.
It's like, "You're not crazy.
I'm your daddy."
It's not you. It's your crazy ass mother." Chainsaw decapitates her. And the mom's just like, "You did good, Jed. Did good. Did the family good." And at the end of the movie, we see him applying the lipstick and punching out a mirror, and we go to credits. Which, him putting on the lipstick, in the original, it makes sense.
Yeah.
In this, it makes no sense.
Right.
Because there's no implication that he is... That he's curious about that sort of thing.
Yeah, because in the first one, it's almost like he's getting all dressed up for dinner or something like that. It's like that's him thinking, "Oh, this is what fancy looks like."
Exactly, but in this, there's none of that.
It's just because it's a
Texas Chainsaw, and they gotta put in a callback. And how does this skinny little dude who's already a young adult turn into like this massive monster within the span of a few years? It makes no sense.
He ate a fat guy.
But that is my number 8. My number 7, which most people would put at the bottom, is Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation.
This fucking movie.
Where to begin? Oh man. This movie. It is... The reason why it's not at the bottom for me is because it's so batshit crazy that you're just along for the ride. And I can tolerate that versus something that's taking itself too seriously or something that's striving to be like cinematic genius. But Next Generation has Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger.
Yeah.
And they did this movie before they both got big. But this movie got delayed by, I think...
No, McConaughey had done Dazed and Confused.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know but...
What year did Dazed and Confused come out?
Let me see. I think it might have been that... Because what they did was they re-released it.
Well, it got delayed.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Because Next Generation was filmed in 1995.
Yeah, it had this very limited, like...
It had a very limited release, and at the time, I think it was The Return?
Yeah, it was called
The Return of
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
The titles of these movies are so long.
Yeah, Dazed and Confused came out in 93.
Okay, so 2 years after Dazed and Confused, him and Renee Zellweger are a part of this dumpster fire, poorly acted, with the exception of those two, in my opinion.
Although, I don't know, Zellweger isn't that good in it.
Yeah. I mean, McConaughey's not really that good either, but he's just so crazy.
He's committed.
He's committed.
Yeah.
And I love saying this, that he has the best Tusken Raider Sandman impression from Star Wars. He's holding his shotgun up and just, ooh, 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 ooh.
Oh, it's so... Oh.
And then there's this weird subplot of, like, the Illuminati.
What the hell was that?
Show them the meaning of fear. Why do I need to see this old man with a nipple ring?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's got, like, a carved-up chest and a nipple ring.
And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's okay, because this movie doesn't know what it's talking about. It's all over the place.
It doesn't make any sense.
The only thing it has that resembles the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie is Leatherface and a dinner scene.
Yeah.
Because every Texas Chainsaw has to have that for some reason.
Yeah.
But what puts another reason why it's at number 7 and not dead last is that there is one redeemable scene for me personally.
Okay.
And it's when Matthew McConaughey is chasing down one of the 4 teenagers in his truck.
Yeah.
And this teenager is basically out. He's exhausted, out of gas, can't run any further. And Matthew McConaughey is just toying with them.
Yeah.
And it really is menacing. For as menacing as it can be, anyway. McConaughey makes it better.
Yeah.
And he literally gets out of the truck, is kind of hunched over, like laughing at this kid, and the kid's like, please, no more, no more. Very poorly acted.
Yeah.
But McConaughey gets back in the truck, is like, all right, I'm going to let you go. And he starts walking, and then boom, runs him over, and I think he reverses over
he does it like...
and runs him over again, like laughing hysterically the whole time.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a big reason why it's...
Seven,
that one scene kind of puts it at number 7 instead of dead last.
Yeah.
But it's also very sleazy, because this movie also tries to have a matriarch who is a very young... Well, not young, but like...
Yeah.
I would say like late 20s, early 30s. I can't remember the actress name or the character name. But she's like the matriarch.
Yeah.
Like she comes in and like scolds McConaughey.
Yeah.
And
the movie's just very obnoxious.
It is obnoxious. And I haven't even talked about Leatherface, because Leatherface is forgettable.
He's barely like... He's kind of an afterthought.
He really is. This is like McConaughey being a jerk movie, basically. McConaughey torturing a bunch of teens with the Illuminati.
Yeah.
And
it's
Leatherface, I don't even know if he kills anyone in this movie.
I don't even remember.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, but it's more like Hostel starring Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
Even though I actually like Hostel. I know a lot of people don't, and I get why, but...
But we have...
I don't know, Eli Roth's writing is better than this.
Even the end of the movie tries to resemble the original.
With Leatherface swinging the chainsaw around.
Yes, we have Leatherface and McConaughey chasing after Renee Zellweger. And it looks like she's going to get caught, but for some reason... This airplane kind of comes out of nowhere. The airplane runs down McConaughey's head.
It felt like the way they end all the scary movies where someone like gets hit by a car or a bus or something. It felt like...
It was almost like, well, our final girl has to live. How can we make that happen? Because we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. It was like a random... It was like the bus in Final Destination. Just out of nowhere.
Drop fucking dead.
Yeah.
Boom. Or in this case, airplane.
Yeah.
And Leatherface just stops in his tracks.
And screams
and
like...
screams. Not in a horrifying, menacing way like the original. Like, literally, there is a close-up of him just...
Yeah, it's like this, like, high-pitched...
It's so bizarre, and it's so bad. Leatherface is so... It's the worst Leatherface has looked for having the classic Leatherface look.
Yeah.
It's awful. It's trash.
Yeah. It's the least scary Leatherface has ever been.
It almost killed the franchise. It's that bad.
Yeah.
I almost wish it would have, compared to some of the garbage it's produced. And speaking of garbage, leading into number 6, Texas Chainsaw 3D.
Yeah.
I struggled with putting this at number 5.
Yeah.
Because the first 2/3 of this movie, even though it's flawed, it's really good.
They're not terrible.
And this is supposed to be a direct sequel to the original.
Yeah.
And Leatherface looks good.
Oh, it's a great design.
He looks menacing. He looks scary.
Yeah.
Even his first kill in the movie, it pays respect to the first one.
It's with the
by
hammer.
killing the hitchhiker with the hammer. He's almost dressed the same as Kirk from the first one. It's done really well until we get to the last act, which drives me up the wall insane. I mean, first off, the way this movie starts off is directly at the end of the first one, where the police show up and basically have a shootout with the Sawyer family, our cannibals.
Right.
And one of the babies of this family survived. And it's supposed to be all these years later, which would be like 30-something years later, but our main actress is in her...
Should be like 40 or
yeah,
something. Yeah,
40 years later, and yet this young
it's
girl's
Alexandra
in her 20s.
Daddario, yeah. How?
But whatever, I can look past it,
Whatever.
I suppose. But that's not even the worst part.
Oh, no. It is not the worst part.
She inherits the Sawyer house.
When she finds out she's adopted and that she was a Sawyer,
Which she doesn't exactly know what it means yet.
Right.
But she gets the house. And this entire movie could have been solved if she would have read this letter that was written for her of, hey, by the way, you have a psycho cousin in the basement. You're his caretaker.
Yeah. And the lawyer even says, make sure to read that letter the first thing you do.
First thing you do, read the letter. What does she do? Not read the fucking letter.
And later on when she calls her, he's like, didn't you read the letter?
No, I specifically told you to read the letter.
Yeah, like, this poor, played by Richard Reel or Riley, I don't know how it's pronounced, but from Office Space. But he's great. He's a great actor. Just one of those character actors that you see him in just random stuff, and he's always great. But
she is essentially responsible for getting all of her friends killed.
Yeah.
The hitchhiker dies.
The fact that you were a dumbass, got everyone killed.
And for the best kill in the movie for me is when he kills, I can't remember the characters' names.
Yeah.
I
haven't watched it in a while.
He takes one of the guys, puts him on the hook.
Yeah.
Because, of course, all the Texas Chainsaws have to have this moment, too. Mm-hmm. This might be a problem with this franchise, is that they repeat so many of their same beats.
Yeah.
And it's why this franchise is kind of one of my least favorite. I get why it's popular, but if you really take a look at these movies, it's
probably the
great.
least consistent, because it has super high highs and super low lows.
The lows are so low. And it's not even the lows of we're having fun low, which makes it even worse.
Yeah.
But the best kill, he gets the guy on the hook.
Yeah. And
he spits in Leatherface's face.
Yeah.
In defiance, which I thought was cool.
Yeah. And
then he turns on the chainsaw and saws him in half in front of our final girl, who turns out to be a Sawyer. Yeah.
The and the spitting in the face, that's also one where you just kind of it's pretty ballsy, but at the same time you're just like, oh shit, this guy just signed his death warrant.
If he was gonna have a quick painless death, that's off the table now.
Yeah, Leatherface is gonna enjoy this.
And unlike Next Generation, and quite frankly a lot of Texas Chainsaw movies, Leatherface felt like the real focus in this movie.
Yeah.
He's usually an afterthought.
Yeah.
But he seemed to be a solid focus until the third act. This whole movie has been dropping little Easter eggs that Leatherface is kind of an anti-hero who we should have sympathy for.
Yeah, just kind of planting the seeds of him being, you know...
Because he's mentally unstable
Yeah.
and mentally challenged, we're supposed to feel sorry for them. I'm sorry. He chainsaws people and eats people for a living. No, I'm not going to have sympathy for this person. Stop making me try to have sympathy for this character, because it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But they go down this route, and they make the big bad of the movie. They switch from Leatherface to the mayor.
Who is an awful person, but at the same time...
Who is indeed an awful person.
The idea that... Yeah.
Who basically started the shootout.
Yeah.
With the Sawyers. But again, I'm not going to feel bad for this family.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
I know
it's
exactly
like
where you're
Leatherface
going.
from 2017, where it's like,
oh,
we have no proof that we can't arrest these people. And it was like, we're Texans. Fuck that.
That's not where I thought you were going. I thought you were about to compare it to Devil's Rejects.
No. Even though the shootout is kind of similar, it even has Bill Moseley.
Yeah.
Poor Bill Moseley. They dragged him into this.
And I'll talk a little bit more about some of the cameos in it a little bit later.
When you cover it?
When I get to it, yeah.
But this movie, the mayor started the shootout. He is essentially responsible for this family's massacre, who we're supposed to feel so bad for all of a sudden. And Bill Moseley's character is he was just protecting the family. No, he wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
He really wasn't, though.
Yeah.
Cut to the third act, and it's the mayor and one or two of his stooges are beating down... Before they beat down Leatherface, they capture our final girl, who realizes what exactly she is, and that, for some reason, makes a psychotic tick or switch
it's
go
like
off in her head.
she's like, oh, I'm a Sawyer. I guess that means I'm a psycho.
That's exactly how it's played off, because I remember her being in the back of the police car, who was played by... the police officer was played by Scott Eastwood, Clint Eastwood's kid.
Yeah.
And her and his character have kind of had like these little flirty moments.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of will they, won't they.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was like, I'm a Sawyer. You're not going to be... Like, I get being under a lot of trauma from everything you've gone through, but from going from trauma to full psycho killer all within like an hour, give me a break.
Yeah.
But the mayor ties her up, rips her shirt open. Of course, she's wearing a bra, but of course they got to rip the shirt open because it's got to be sleazy, and just to make him more hateable. We got to hate him more than Leatherface. I don't, but
maybe just as much, but not more.
Maybe just as much, but not more. But Leatherface enters the room, and one of the best shots in the movie, and the most show shot throughout all the previews and the trailers, is him resting the chainsaw on her shoulder with her mouth taped shut. And he rips the tape off, I guess, to hear her scream, which would make sense because he's psychotic. And she starts screaming, "I'm your cousin, I'm a Sawyer," and she points to this family scar that they all have, or like this family mark they all have, and he starts like groaning and moaning, which Leatherface does, quite frankly. So it's in fit with his character. He lets her loose. The mayor and his stooge attack him. She takes off running. It looks like she's going to escape. She turns around and helps him.
Yeah.
After he slaughtered all of her friends, she turns around.
Which was her fault.
Which was her fault, but they're still her friends.
Right.
Turns around and helps him. This
leads into
one of the worst lines I've ever heard in any horror movie.
Comically bad.
She didn't even want to say it. It's so bad.
I can imagine.
She helps him kill one of the stooges, and he's fighting off the mayor, and she throws his chainsaw. She throws the chainsaw to Leatherface, and she says, "Do your thing, cuz."
Kill me.
Please kill me.
If I were the mayor, I'd be like,
throw me through the meat grinder now.
I'd be like, stand back, I'll do it myself.
Which, ironically, that's exactly how he dies.
Yeah.
I'm
just saying, like, if I had to hear that, I'd be like, no, I'll jump on the saw myself. Like,
he's holding on, like, it's almost like sliding into a meat grinder.
Yeah.
And Leatherface chainsaws his hands off very slowly, and he falls into the grinder
Which
and
looked
dies.
cool.
It did look cool.
The gore is good
in
in that movie.
The gore is good. The kills are good. It's literally the last act of this movie that hurts it so much for me. Like, yeah, you had the cheesy 3D effects, but I could almost get past it. I mean, it even has the comic moment of, which this was definitely done with comedic intent.
Yeah.
I think you know where I'm about to go with this. They're at the carnival fair.
Yeah.
And someone who is dressed up in a jigsaw puppet mask, or the pig mask.
It's the pig mask.
It's the pig mask. Resembling Saw, holds up a chainsaw and has like a
little toy. It's like a toy chainsaw.
That he has a saw off with Leatherface.
And he says, and I think he even says, like, want to play a game or something like that.
And Leatherface just revs up his chainsaw.
Just revs up his real chainsaw.
It was a funny moment.
It was kind of funny. It was
a nice break from all the tension that we've been having.
It was a moment that belonged in 2.
I would agree with that.
I think it was a moment that didn't belong in Texas Chainsaw 3D. It belonged in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Okay. Well,
But yeah, you're right. It was kind of like it wasn't like a hot, like out loud haha. It was more of a
all right, I see what you did there.
Yeah, it's like I give you that one.
So they kill the mayor, and she's helping Leatherface up because he's so sympathetic now. And our sheriff comes on the scene. And this is the one good character in the entire movie. The sheriff
the sheriff seems like a cool guy. He seems like he's genuinely trying to do his job well.
He's trying to do his job, and he's trying to do the right thing. He lets the mayor die, because the mayor's such a douche. Cool. The mayor kind of deserves it. You're going to arrest Leatherface, right? He doesn't arrest Leatherface! A known murderer who tortures and skins people and eats people. He does not arrest this dude.
The perks of being white.
Perks of being white in Texas with the black sheriff. Oh, is this an everyday occurrence in Texas? Because I have no idea.
I don't know.
This franchise makes
that's
it
honestly
seem
one
like
of the that's honestly one of the least realistic things about it is the fact that the sheriff is black.
Not necessarily in the modern day,
right?
But it's the same sheriff from the 70s, which wouldn't make any sense,
right?
But
don't get me wrong, one of my all-time favorite movies is about a black sheriff, but that's a comedy.
Blazing Saddles.
Yeah,
but it's one of those few character flaws or things that I can look past.
Sure,
quite frankly,
that's one of those like that makes sense, but okay, whatever.
Because I'm not sure if his race is ever brought up.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
So, I can live with it.
Sure.
But the whole do your thing, cuz, and we're gonna make Leatherface a sympathetic character, it's nonsense. And this movie basically ends with her taking over the head of the family and being his caretaker. It's so bad.
Yeah.
It started off so good, and it plateaued downhill real quick.
Just like, yeah.
Like, you had me intrigued. You built up.
The opening scene was fantastic, and then just nosedive.
It's like, why do these movies think that Leatherface can't be the big bad?
Yeah.
I don't understand it. That was number 6. And the only reason why it's not number 5 is because of the third act.
Yeah.
Because number 5 is boring.
Number 5 is just a nothing movie.
My number 5.
Yeah.
Number 5 is, for me, is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Leatherface, or Leatherface TCM 3.
Yeah.
Came out in 1990. This film has Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah.
It has
Ken Foray.
It has Ken Foray.
And it somehow manages to be bland.
It's bland and boring. And granted, this movie it got butchered by the studio.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be more graphic. It's supposed to be
sleazier and
I don't know if necessarily.
Well,
sleazier.
I mean, it was supposed to be again, an exploitation movie the way the first one was.
The opening sequence is the best thing about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it's very 90s, which makes sense.
Yeah.
It came out in 1990.
The movie is so very early 90s.
It is, but the opening scene, it felt so badass.
Mm-hmm.
You have the zoom in on the saw is family engraved on the saw. It's almost like Leatherface is like getting ready to go out and kill. It's almost like a WWE style intro.
Yeah.
Like he about to go and open up a can of Texas whoop ass.
Yeah, it's almost like a suiting up scene in a superhero movie or something.
And they got
that.
the metal music playing in the background. They have him slam the door, and it's all downhill from there.
Yeah.
You have this. I don't know if they're couples, if they're a couple, if they're friends, or if they're siblings. You have this male-female duo traveling through the backwoods of Texas for whatever reason. I can't remember because it's so.
Why
boring.
would anyone want to drive to the backwoods of Texas?
Why would anyone want to go to Texas?
Especially now.
Conversation for another time.
Right.
But it's too hot. It's too damn hot. It's too hot in Tennessee. I can't even imagine. Texas, it's like another planet. It's like Florida.
Hey, don't be that mean to Texas.
All right, but they're driving through Texas, and they run into our, lovely clan of cannibals, and somehow this movie makes cannibals boring.
Yeah, how do you, like
Viggo Mortensen is the cute one, who he turns out to be a bad guy. But Leatherface, I wouldn't say necessarily takes a back seat, but the movie's just so boring.
Yeah, it's just it's uninteresting. It's not boring in the sense that nothing happens. It's boring in the sense that it's uninteresting.
Even when people die in this movie, the rarity that it happens,
Right.
It's just okay. Like Ken Foray runs into this woman running through the woods,
Yeah.
who apparently had already survived a massacre. They for some reason separate, and Leatherface kills the girl. Ken Foray later finds her, and he's just, damn.
Mm-hmm.
Not even a sorrowful damn, just, damn, she dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
None
so
of the
bad.
death has any weight to it.
No, it doesn't.
It-
Even when when Leatherface appears to kill the brother,
Yeah.
it's so
It never feels like a human life is gone.
exactly. And well, in this case, it's not because
Right.
the brother.
Yeah, because this stupid.
He gets caught in a bear trap, falls down. Leatherface is catching up to him. He tells her, the final girl, to go, which she does. She turns around and she sees Leatherface coming down with the chainsaw on him.
Yeah.
A chainsaw through human flesh. The dude is dead. Nope. He shows up for the classic dinner scene with barely a scratch on him.
He missed.
It's almost like he was on scare tactics. Just,
Yeah.
are you scared? You should be.
Yeah.
They bring him back to their place where he's killed off by the little girl who it's implicated that she may be the daughter of Leatherface.
Yeah. I don't know
But
if they ever really confirm anything.
They don't confirm it, it's simply implied. But this movie is so uninteresting that I just don't care.
Yeah.
And Ken Foray makes the save, and him and Viggo Mortensen get into a fight. Viggo Mortensen and Ken Foray in a fight. And it's boring.
I feel nothing.
No excitement, no thrill, just can we hurry up and get this over
This should
with?
be like something that like we've been waiting to see. Like this should be badass.
And it was kind of built up that way, or
Yeah.
at least very lazily built up that way.
And it's just so uninteresting.
But Ken Foray sets Viggo Mortensen on fire, and that's the end of him. And we finally have our Ken Foray versus Leatherface showdown. Ken Foray, a horror icon,
Mm-hmm.
facing off against Leatherface, a horror icon. And it's boring.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, no. This fight is not boring. The way it ends is just messed up to me.
Yeah.
Because they're fighting in a lake, and somehow I think the chainsaw gets caught on a branch or something. It's
Yep.
sticking straight up.
Yeah.
Leatherface takes his head and rams it into the chainsaw.
Mm-hmm.
And you see his body go limp,
Yeah.
indicating that he's dead. And he's not.
Yeah.
He shows up at the end of the film to make the final save, which makes no sense. And even the end of this movie tries to replicate
Yeah.
the first one with them just like laughing hysterically as they drive off, but it
Yeah.
didn't earn it.
No.
Even the final girl, she suffers from Texas Chainsaw 3D syndrome, where she kind of turns into a psycho for like like literally 5 seconds.
Yeah.
She calls out Leatherface. You hear the grunge music kick in, like
Yeah.
she's about to get her
It is a good
WWE
soundtrack.
style intro.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Hey, you!" He revs up the chainsaw. She's like, "Oh no!"
Yeah. Yeah. That was
so dumb.
Yeah. It was almost like the chainsaw. It was because the two times where you're like, "Oh, dude, that would have been a gnarly kill." Not only did they cut away, it apparently didn't happen.
And a lot of it had to do with the studio.
I know that part.
But still, it had nothing to do with the writing.
Right.
Why is his brother still alive? Why is Kim Foray still alive? Even though I'm glad he is, but how?
Exactly.
I will say I like Leatherface's look in this one.
Oh yeah.
The mask looked really good.
The mask looks very gross.
Which would make sense.
Yeah, it looks like the flesh looks fresher in it, oddly enough.
Well, if they've still been going at it, then yeah, I can see why it would look fresh. Seems really odd. We're talking about like people being skinned alive and we're eating food.
Yeah.
This is how messed up we are.
We have to have a dinner scene.
Yes, we do, because it's Texas Chainsaw. Stick to the script. Stick to the script. But those four, Leatherface,
Those
Next
are the crappy
Generation, Chainsaw 3D, Leatherface, TCM 3, those are
Those are the crappy ones.
Crappy ones. I'm finally going to talk about a good Texas Chainsaw.
Mm-hmm.
At number 4, and a lot of people really don't like this movie,
Yeah.
and they even call it the worst in the franchise,
Somewhat,
which I don't
yeah.
understand.
Yeah, at all.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning. It's the prequel to the remake,
Yeah.
and I think it's I love it. I think
Yeah.
it's great. I know I love it more than you,
Yeah, but I like it.
but you like it, and
We don't. Both of us don't understand the hate for it.
I don't understand the hate for it because Leatherface has a great look, especially after he gets his first mask.
Yeah.
They implicate that that's what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Like, you can see him make that decision, which I think is great. Like, Leatherface finally gets some characterization. Like, he's slightly humanized, but he's still a deranged psychopath.
Yeah. Not humanized in a way that you feel bad for him.
Yeah, but you can kind of, you don't feel bad for him, but you see where he's not necessarily coming from. What am I looking for? You see where it happens, where he
Yeah.
decides to become Leatherface.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great choice to have in this movie. Arlie Ermey's in it, has the head of the family.
This is his movie.
And this is his movie. It's like they did the remake with him in it.
And he was the best part of the remake, in my opinion.
Very fair point.
And
it's like, ooh, he was really good. Everyone loved him. Let's just make a movie around him.
And I'm like, I'm sold.
I
want to see,
because he was so menacing.
He was so menacing. I mean, just
him and Leatherface. Like, I know I kind of griped earlier about how Leatherface always seems to take a back seat in these movies.
I'm okay with it in this case.
This is the one time I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Is because it's Arlie Ermey, and God rest his soul.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace. He wasn't the best actor.
Yeah, he was not versatile.
He wasn't versatile, but the one or two things he could do so
Absolutely.
well.
And there are good actors that are like that. Again,
a lot of actors are like that.
Clint Eastwood, he can do a couple things, but he does them so
Probably
well.
better than anybody.
Yeah, John Wayne was the same way. He could kind of do one character, but he did it really well.
That's right. Arlie Ermey and Leatherface, anytime these two characters are on screen, tension is there.
Yeah.
Which helps this movie so much. Like, this
They're
came out,
terrifying. They're
They
genuinely
are.
terrifying.
And this movie came out in the mid 2000s, which was not a good decade for horror. Like,
I mean, not all. I mean, that was when the Saw movies were around.
true, but this was like, I think this came out in 2006. So this is around like Saw 3 era, I believe.
Yeah, something like that.
And this was right when like the
So this was when
torture
Saw.
porn.
Yeah, and this was when Saw was about to start declining.
Yes.
This is when the nosedive was about to happen.
This was like the torture porn era of horror, as people like to dub it.
Yeah.
I personally disagree.
Yeah, I think that just.
But this movie left a bad taste, pun intended, in people's mouths. And I don't get it. Like, it has a great cast.
It does.
Like, Arlie Ermy has Sheriff Hoyt, Andrew Bernarski
Hewitt.
as Leatherface. Oh yeah, Hewitt.
Hoyt. Well, Hoyt is the sheriff's name.
He takes over the sheriff's name. Like, the one thing I didn't get about the remake and the prequel to it
Was renaming the Sawyer family
renaming
the
the
Hewitt
Sawyer
family.
family to Hewitt. Like, did the character Tom Sawyer become super popular at this point? Because I remember reading a lot of Tom Sawyer in school around this time, but was this
that part of
really
the Sawyer
necessary?
science? Is this
Was
part
this
of the
really necessary to change it to Hewitt?
the Twainaissance? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the writer knew. Maybe it was kind of like
Maybe the
Illuminati.
Illuminati clan showed back up. It was like, change your name.
I was gonna say maybe it's a Freddy Krueger situation where there was a guy named Hewitt that like bullied the director in high school or something.
Oh man, but this movie, and we're just talking about the bad guys, and you know, all the bad movies that we had just discussed. Yeah, they're bad, but what makes it even worse is that there aren't any rootable characters. There's not characters you can relate to or characters you even want to cheer for. This has characters you want to cheer for.
Yeah.
It's a prequel to the remake, so you know what's going to happen,
Right.
but you don't want it to.
Right.
You have a pair of brothers and
Yeah.
their girlfriends, and the brothers are going to enlist in
Yeah.
Vietnam.
The brothers you really care about.
The brothers is what sell it for me.
The girlfriends are played by good actresses. They're nothing characters, but they're played by good actresses.
I would chop that up to bad writing.
Oh, absolutely.
But the brothers, for me, is what
The writing
sells
is
me
not
on
the
it.
strength of this movie.
No,
it's
not
the
at all.
cast.
It's the cast, hands down. And Matt Bomer,
Yeah.
or Bomer.
Bomer, I think.
Matthew Bomer plays the elder brother, Eric.
Yeah. And he's great.
He carries the movie from his end.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're on their way to... He's on his way to re-enlist,
Yeah.
and his little brother got drafted. And his little brother burns his draft card, or tries to burn his draft card. And they have this really, like, emotional moment
Hmm?
where he just kind of pulls him close to him. And it's like, I went back for you.
Yeah.
Like, you're not the only one who's scared. I'm scared. I am still scared. But I went back for you. And it has a lot of emotional weight, and you can truly feel that brotherly bond
Yeah.
between those characters.
Yeah. It feels real.
And they get run off the road by a biker, and they're being chased by a biker, and then they
Yeah.
hit a cow because... What is it with these movies and hitting cows? I don't understand.
It's a slaughterhouse. Like, they're butchers.
They got beef.
Where's the beef?
It's on the road. So they wreck.
Where's the beef? Oh, shit.
The bikers got the upper hand. In comes Sheriff Hoyt, and the tension goes through the roof. And the biker tries to play it off as like, hey, I just came upon this accident. But the sheriff shoots her immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I really love about these characters, is especially Matt Bomer's character. He is a smart character.
Yeah.
Who actually makes a pretty smart decision. He tells the sheriff he can't find his girlfriend, and he gets hit in the gut with the shotgun. He looks out into the cornfield and sees his girlfriend. She's about to come to him, and he motions to her, "Don't do it.
Yeah.
Something is not right." It's like, oh, we finally have smart characters for once.
Yeah.
And the sheriff finds the draft card that was almost burned.
Yeah.
And of course, the older brother takes the fall for it.
Yeah, he says that it was his, yeah.
Mm-hmm. and they get taken to the house.
Yeah.
And our final girl who got left behind
Yeah.
finds her way there with the biker's partner who comes across the scene. But this for me, this is like some of R. Lee Ermey's best work.
Oh, it's so good.
The push-up scene.
The push-up scene is amazing. I almost don't want to say too much about it because it's like
it's so good.
It's
that
so
people
good.
Should just go watch it.
Yeah. But it's him just being so cruel.
It is. It's so mean-spirited, but for me, it's one of those, he gets his
It
comeuppance
works.
for it, and it works.
Yeah, and he's the kind of character where it's like, yeah, it makes perfect sense for him to just be this just sadistic bastard. I mean, it just...
And you get a little bit of background into his character,
do.
because you find out he fought in the Korean War, became a POW, and this is when he actually started first eating people.
Because he had to eat, like...
He had to eat people to survive. And the way he says this to the younger brother, because he's about to kill
Matt Bomer.
Bomer, and
because he thinks
brother,
he's the draft
well, he
dodger.
knows he's not. He's waiting for the
Oh,
little
that's
brother
right,
to
that's right,
own
that's
up
right.
to it. 'Cause
That's right.
in the police car, the little brother's like, he knows.
Yeah.
But by the time the little brother owns up to it, he decides not to kill Matt Bomer at this time.
Right.
And he tells the little brother about the Korean War and says, every once in a while when food was scarce, some poor soul was chosen. And the little brother's like, chosen? Didn't you just hear what I said? I told you we had to eat.
Yeah.
So so you already kind of see this guy was kind of evil all along.
Yeah.
It just didn't happen overnight, which is what works.
Yeah. He was never, or at least, during the war at the very least, was not an empathetic person. Like it was, he was not someone who really had the empathy and humanity to see people as people.
Or either by the time he got caught, that part of him was lost. But
Right.
We'll never know.
Right.
But the push-up scene happens, and again, I don't want to talk about it too much because it really is good. It's cruel and sadistic, but R. Lee Ermey is so charismatic that you almost forget how cruel and mean it is.
He sells it so well.
And apparently, he was like having issues with his wrist at the time of filming, and he would still go through with it.
Yeah.
Like kudos to R. Lee Ermey, hands down.
Oh yeah.
He really does carry this movie.
Oh yeah.
And I haven't even talked about Leatherface at this point. Leatherface is downstairs in his basement, just like brandishing weapons and whatnot.
Yeah.
Or he's preparing the biker who was shot.
Yeah.
R. Lee Ermey tells him this is no different from the slaughterhouse, like because apparently Leatherface was working in a slaughterhouse before he goes batshit crazy.
Yeah, because that was part of the thing was the slaughterhouse closed down.
That's right.
And
they didn't know how they were going to get food.
Right.
Which is why they started killing people. Because I remember before they capture all of them, they're all sitting at the dinner table. There's 2 dinner scenes in this movie. But they don't feel necessarily forced.
No.
Which is unlike the other ones that we have talked about up to this point.
Because it feels like they're leading up to a dinner scene that has yet to happen.
Yes, and the first one is just the family. And R. Lee Ermey's saying, people may not remember what we say here tonight, but they're going to remember what we do.
Right.
And he's like, thanks to the good sheriff here, we're not going to go hungry tonight.
Right.
They eat the sheriff.
Yeah.
And
the real sheriff.
The real sheriff. And I remember some behind-the-scenes stuff is whatever was in that bowl smelled something foul.
Oh, yeah.
And R. Lee Ermey had to hold it right up to his nose and smell it out like he enjoyed it. Oh, man, kudos to that guy.
Man, yeah.
Leatherface is working on the first biker that was killed, and R. Lee Ermey, you can see that character's full descent into madness, where he's telling Leatherface, meat's meat, bone's bone. Get it done.
Yeah.
And it's almost like like almost like pulling like Leatherface already has his issues. He's already killed one person at this point.
Yeah.
But that was in a fit of rage.
Yeah.
Versus like methodical.
Yeah. Hewitt is turning him into a serial killer.
Straight up. And so he's been downstairs preparing this biker to eat.
Yeah.
And and Hoyt has been working over the kids.
Yeah.
And the older brother tries to escape, and he immediately goes for his little brother, who's been beaten down at this point. And he saves his little brother's girlfriend, and of course it's all for naught because they all get recaptured.
Right.
But one of the things I loved about this movie is Bomer and Arlie Ermey's like hatred for each other.
Yeah.
The characters' hatreds
Yeah.
for each other.
It's like
It pops off.
It's like the opposite of sexual tension. It's like because it's like it has the same energy as sexual tension, but it's hatred.
That makes a lot of sense.
Like it's that.
And you sense it from the moment the sheriff hits him in the gut with the gun.
Yeah.
It is on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so good. And the Arlie Ermey comes out pointing a shotgun. He tells his little brother to run. He's standing in front of the shotgun calling him all kinds of names. And the brother gets caught in a bear trap.
Right.
Another thing about these movies is bear traps for some
Yeah.
reason. But, of course, he turns to look and then he gets knocked out.
Yeah.
And Leatherface actually stops the girlfriend from escaping by like driving like some kind of hook into her shoulder.
Yeah.
And at this point, Arlie Ermey hands Matt Bomer over to Leatherface.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's like, "You don't want to play with me anymore because you said I was a pussy. That's what you said. Well, why my boy Tommy here ain't no pussy. Maybe you want to play with him for a while."
Yeah.
You hate it so much. Like, you want to just hit him in the face, and that's what I like.
Oh yeah,
we have characters we really want to cheer for, and characters we really want to see get defeated.
And both are equally entertaining.
And
Exactly. If not, the villains being more entertaining.
Yes, villains are more entertaining. The villains in this movie are more entertaining than our heroes, but the heroes hold their fair share. They're not
right.
They're not so dumbed down to the point where you want to see them.
They're not
die.
just fodder.
Exactly. And this is when Leatherface gets his mask. And his first mask that he takes is Matt Bomer's face.
Right.
Which...
Understandable.
He's a gorgeous man. We're both straight.
Yeah.
We both have girlfriends, but...
We know art when we see it.
Yeah, the man is art. Apparently the person who plays Arlie Ermey's mom in this movie just like loved him.
Was just like enamored.
Yes. Yeah. Which understandably so.
Yeah.
But you see him what I like about the build up to Leatherface taking his face and wearing it as a mask is you see him make the choice. Like you see him like touching on his face like almost like touching a wild animal.
Yeah, or like a butcher examining meat.
Yeah. And you see him touch his face, and you see him touch his face.
Yeah,
you see the wheels turn.
Yeah, you see him kind of comparing the two and being like, okay.
This movie's so well done, I don't know why it gets so much hate.
I don't either. Like, there are certain criticisms that I get.
And I can agree. Like, I know it's not an all-time classic.
Yeah.
But the kills are great. You have characters you can root for, and it's carried by Arlie Ermey. It's a really good movie.
I don't get the hate. Do not get the hate.
Before he finishes off Matt Bomer, the male biker has broken into the house and assaults one of the family members.
Who wouldn't want to finish off Matt Bomer?
Not very funny. The biker attacks one of the family members. He then attacks the sheriff. And the sheriff is calling out for Leatherface, whose name is Tommy.
Yeah.
like Thomas Hewitt is
Thomas
Leatherface's
Hewitt.
name. Still better than Jed.
I was gonna say, well, maybe that's why they didn't make it Thomas Sawyer.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Just dawned on me.
Holy crap!
Just dawned on me. Maybe there was some reason they wanted his name to be Tom or Tom. Maybe there's a reason.
Probably just to hear Arlie Ermy shout Tommy. But then again, the remake happened. Whatever. I don't want to think about it too much.
Whatever.
But you're probably right. But he's screaming for, Leatherface or Tommy. And
Tommy, can you hear
this
me?
is when we see Leatherface kill with the chainsaw for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's brutal.
It is absolutely brutal.
They throw the biker down onto the chainsaw while it's still
Yeah.
off. And
then rev it up.
They turn it on and rev it up through his body.
It is gnarly.
And you could feel the tension, like, oh crap, it's about to happen.
Yeah, you knew exactly. As soon as he landed, you're like,
you know it's
shit.
gonna happen.
Yeah.
And after that kill, that's when that chainsaw will become Leatherface's best friend, because he immediately goes downstairs. By the way, he's been torturing Matt Bomer.
Yeah.
He's been digging into his wrist and stuff.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah. Again,
And
as if he's just like
a piece of meat.
a slab of beef.
And before he goes down there to kill him, Matt Bomer's girlfriend, Jordana Brewster, played by Jordana Brewster in this movie, they have this really tragic moment of talking about how many kids they were going to have, what were going to be their names, and where are they going to live. It's really sad.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to happen now.
Right.
And he's coming downstairs. He tells her to hide, and she literally hides underneath the table that he's on.
Yeah.
And Leatherface wastes no time. He gets down there, turns on the chainsaw, through the gut. He's dead. And he immediately cuts off his face. And you see it.
Yeah.
This movie does not hold back. It is graphic, it is gory, and it's in your face.
Yeah.
Or, about to wear your face.
Right. Yeah, it is in your face, or it is off your face.
Face.
He wants to take his face. Oh.
Can we just dub that in?
Just dub in the audio.
Dub in the audio with the film.
I want to take his face. Oh.
And
then immediately when he walks out, dub in Travolta going, "You good looking."
Yes.
We fucking love Face Off, by the way. Just to
Face Off. It's not a horror movie, but it's a great.
We love Face Off.
Oh, and it works with this.
Oh, absolutely.
But what can make it even more appalling and even more gross? He doesn't even wash the blood off the face. He just straight
it's
up.
like adhesive.
He just straight up puts it on, blood soaked on his face. And Hoyt, Arlie Ermey's calling to him. He starts going up the stairs, and when Ermey sees him, he's like hiding his face.
Yeah.
And then Arlie Ermey just I like your new face.
Yeah.
Looks up in admiration.
Yeah.
It's
just like
haunting.
A proud father.
Exactly. A proud father moment. Almost.
Yeah.
And I think there's supposed to be cousins in this one.
Something like that.
But Leatherface was basically adopted into this family, because you find out he was literally thrown in the garbage when he was born.
Yeah.
And the Hewitt family just found him and took him in.
Yeah.
But it is exactly like a proud father moment of, I can't believe he did it. But I'm proud
just
of you.
Yeah.
And it's not the only one, and it works with these two because it's sick and deranged, but that's exactly who these characters are.
Right.
And we get to the Jordana Brewster does get captured, and we get to the dinner scene.
Yeah.
Which in this one, it does not feel forced.
No, it really doesn't.
The build up for Jordana Brewster's escape works really well for me. Because Arlie Ermey's character is preaching and praying, I was hungry, you gave me meat. I was thirsty,
feels like
you gave me drink.
It really feels like this like Pentecostal revival. Like it is haunting.
It really is, and I remember at the end of his prayer, he's like, "This family has endured adversity and pain. We've endured and we have prevailed. Amen." And when he opens his eyes and immediately looks to her, it's just disturbing.
Yeah.
It's like, you're in for it now.
Yeah.
And our three characters that are left is our final girl, which is Jordana Brewster, her best friend, and the younger brother.
Right.
Leatherface comes in and slits best friend's throat, who went through hell.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll let you talk about that in your coverage. But it's she goes through a lot, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And that leaves Jordana Brewster and the little brother. She escapes. And I think one of the best moments in the movie is when she's running out the front door and Arlie Ermy goes out there first, and then Leatherface comes bolting out with the chainsaw. Yeah. And you see this proud dad moment in this sick, deranged way.
Yeah.
And he has the line that I think that works for his character. He's like, "There comes a time where every boy becomes a man." Ooh, it's chilling.
Yeah. You've seen the movie Trick or Treat, right?
Yes.
It makes me think of the pumpkin carving scene in Trick or Treat. The "Don't forget to help me with the eyes."
Ah, yeah, okay.
Where he's like helping his son carve the severed head. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just kind of what it made me think of as far as like this really sadistic, proud dad moment. Yeah.
And the younger brother finally wakes up. He's been knocked out this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees his dead girlfriend.
Yeah.
And he gets some payback on the sheriff. He takes the baton, beats the crap out of him. Like, he almost had this moment earlier of that he's just kind of giving up.
Yeah.
Which, of course, I'm not a fan of. But he's been proven to be a coward.
Yeah.
He burned his draft card. He didn't want to go. He didn't want to fight.
Yeah, we know he doesn't want to fight.
So it made sense for his character. And then when he finally sees his girlfriend dead, he kind of goes into brief badass mode.
Yeah.
Beats up Arlie Ermy. It's the last we see of Ermy in the film.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, when Matt Bomer got killed, when he got killed off, the movie got, I don't want to say less fun, but I was less invested.
He was one half of the greatness of this. He was half of the team that made this movie work. And
when it's like you put a lot of emotional investment in his character in particular, because this is probably one of the characters in this franchise that's very well written.
Yeah.
And when he dies, you just kind of.
Yeah.
But then you have Arlie Ermy, and this was the last you see of him. And the rest of the film is not bad.
Right.
Because luckily, it doesn't go on for, it may have like 10 minutes or so.
Maybe.
After that.
At the most.
Which was smart.
Yeah. Because because Ermy and Bomer are the ones carrying the movie.
Exactly. And we've already talked about the intense, the chemistry that the two actors had and the hatred between the characters was just awesome. But Leatherface chases our two survivors, or the final girl, to the slaughterhouse. The brother is in hot pursuit. He tries to get the upper hand on Leatherface. He goes to help her up, and then he gets one of the best kills with the chainsaw in the franchise. He gets it straight through the back, and Leatherface lifts him up. And in the extended version, or the uncut version, whichever you want to call it, you see the body, and you see the body shaking on the chainsaw before he tosses him off of it. Yeah. Whereas in the theatrical cut, you just get you only see Leatherface's hands and the body kind of go limp, versus seeing the actual gore. Yeah. The movie's in your face with its blood.
And I can see why some people might consider that to be like a lot of people, I think, felt like it was just mean-spirited without much, and just kind of grotesque without much purpose. And I'm like, I guess, but to me, that kind of is the purpose.
Exactly, because it is called Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
You have to go into this expecting it.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why it doesn't come off too mean-spirited to me is because Hoyt does get a bit of comeuppance.
He does.
By the brother who needed it most.
Yeah.
But since it is the prequel to the remake, all these characters do have to die.
Right.
Which they do. Jordana Brewster, it looks like she's getting away. She drives off in the car, just like Jessica Biel's character did in the remake.
Right.
And Leatherface is in the back of the
seat,
car,
yeah.
turns on the chainsaw, and kills her.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this
And
movie.
then we get the John Larroquette narration, that he came back one last time to do the, but in this case it's an epilogue instead of a prologue.
That's right. I really enjoyed this movie.
I
think
like
it's
it. I like it.
severely disrespected.
Yeah.
And for people to say it's the worst in the franchise, have you seen the other movies in this franchise?
Yeah.
Do you even know about Leatherface 2017? Do you know about it? Because it's god awful. I recently saw a Texas Chainsaw Massacre ranking.
Oh yeah,
that
you
someone
were
else
telling me
did,
about this.
And they had the beginning at dead last and Leatherface at like number 5. How did you enjoy it that much?
Yeah.
The movie sucks. All right, top 3. The top 3 picks. So my number 3 pick is going to be kind of controversial.
I really don't think it's that controversial, but
It depends on your taste.
I guess it depends on who you ask.
But for me, my number 3 is one of the all-time classics, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Yeah.
And I love this movie.
Yeah.
Everything about it is awesome. But the reason why I have it at number 3...
The fact that it's a departure is... Yeah.
I didn't feel it needed to steer into the horror comedy at this point.
Sure.
Like, this is literally the sequel to a all-time classic.
Yeah.
And while I appreciate doing something different, for me it almost set the tone for all the repetition, for all the horrible knockoffs that we get.
Yeah.
And it's just, we get a little more... Leatherface is a little more humanized, but he gets his little crush, and it's gross.
Yeah.
And I understand it's meant to be gross.
Yeah.
And it's not supposed to be like you're not shipping this
You're not
couple.
going, aw, he's in love. Yeah.
It is just straight up gross. And Bill Moseley is phenomenal as Chop Top. From the moment his face is revealed,
Yeah.
you're in it. And we've harped on this a lot with Leatherface kind of being the back seat. He wasn't necessarily a back seat, but Chop Top was
kind of
like
upstaged.
He was kind of up. That's a great way to put it. Chop Top definitely upstaged him.
Yeah.
He was Chop Top. I felt was more sadistic.
Yeah, and just more fun in a
Dark, grisly
in a horror fan way, more fun.
I just thought it didn't need to steer into the comedy.
Sure,
route.
and I'll talk.
And while I do appreciate it, because it is a great movie.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong. I love this movie. I just thought maybe it entered the comedy a little too soon.
Yeah, and I'll talk a little bit more about.
Too soon.
I'll talk a little bit more about that change in direction when we get to mine.
Yeah, and I'm definitely going to let you cover this one a lot more because I know you feel more passionate about this one than I do.
To an extent, yeah.
But I will say, Bill Moseley as Chop Top is phenomenal, and I really like Leatherface's look.
I do too.
I like the suit and the mask was you could see more of his features, which I'm guessing was kind of the point.
Yeah.
But at least you go into this movie knowing what it's going to be because the cover poster is the Breakfast Club.
Yeah, it's the Sawyer family recreating the iconic Breakfast Club poster.
So you know what you're getting into when you go see this movie.
it advertised itself as being a horror comedy.
Exactly. And I would rather it be advertised that way than you go in and that's what you get.
Yeah.
But but again, they also replicate the ending to the first one with our final girl. What's the character's name? Is it like
Stretch?
Stretch, you're right.
Yeah.
I knew it started with an S.
I haven't watched it in a while. I need to watch it again.
Same here. That may help me with it. It may move it up in the rankings for me, honestly. And if we do rewatch movies and we do update these lists, and if anyone wants to see that, we can do that.
Yeah.
But right now,
if our lists change, we might just do like an update feature on another episode. Just might just do like an update feature of, by the way, this order has.
I promise, Leatherface 2017 will always be last. It's never going to change. It will always be last.
We know.
I will watch Next Generation on fucking loop compared to Leatherface 2017. On loop. Next Generation on loop. Matthew McConaughey's Sandman on loop. It's still better than Leatherface 2017.
Dear God.
I will hammer this point into the damn ground.
Oh, you have. But anyway, yeah.
TCM 2.
Yeah.
The kills are good. It's not quite as graphic as part 1, or it may be just not as shocking.
Well, even part 1, it didn't show that. It kind of took almost the Psycho route, where it shows you the before and after. Now, it does show more than Psycho.
Part 1 is just so quick and so sudden that you can't take it in until it's already happened.
Yeah, and then again, the grosser parts, we'll talk about that. I'll just hold off so we can get it.
But with Stretch, her replicating the ending of part 1, again, it just doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
Like, we see this ending so many times.
Yeah.
And this is what I don't like about this franchise, is it's almost like repeating the same beats. I mean, TCM 2 is extremely different from its original counterpart, but you still get the grandpa scene, you still get the dinner scene.
Yeah.
And this is why I think the Texas Chainsaw doesn't quite hold up to the other classic franchises, like Friday the 13th, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street.
They're not really trying new things with the sequels.
Yes, and even
except for when they did and you hate it.
Talk about Leatherface?
Yes.
Well, that's not different. It may be different, but it's garbage. I'm sorry. Will, it's garbage. Don't try to get me to like this movie.
I'm not trying to get you to like it. I'm just saying it technically was different.
It still had
I never said it was good.
I don't know if it had a dinner scene.
It didn't.
Wow. It still sucks.
I'm not trying to change your mind. That's why I said the one time they did something different, you hated it.
It's absolute trash. But Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, the reason why I think those three are such the three big pillars is because even though when they tried different things and they were kind of bad, it was still different, and we didn't get the same ending at the end of every film.
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street's kind of iffy because it's always indicated that Freddy's still alive.
I think Halloween had a lot of, like, this is the same thing, but...
A lot of same thing throughout the movie, but it wasn't like, you have your... It's not like Halloween always had their dinner scene.
Yeah, you always had to recreate a certain scene.
Exactly. But we'll get to those later. Yeah. And my number 2 is the remake.
Yeah. Texas
Chainsaw Massacre, the remake. I think it came out at a bad time.
I agree. Yeah.
Horror wasn't too good at this time. It was kind of like the era of remakes.
Yeah, it was kind of when that first.
The Grudge was getting remade by America. The Ring got remade for an American audience.
The Ring was great, but most of the more popular mainstream horror was not nearly as gruesome.
And I think that's one of the things that hurt it so much is that this movie is extremely gruesome and graphic and violent.
When did this come out? 2003?
2003.
Okay, so this was a year before Saw.
Yeah, it was before Saw.
You still had Cabin Fever and House of a Thousand Corpses, so you had these sort of, grindhouse throwback movies, but but they weren't popular with the mainstream.
No.
They were still very underground.
It was very looked down upon if you enjoyed these films.
Exactly. Especially from non-horror people.
And honestly, for me, this may have been Leatherface's best look.
It's good.
I think I really think it's a toss-up between that and the original. His look, anyway.
His look, yeah.
But it's definitely a more grimy, grungy look.
Yeah.
But
it looks more rotten.
Yeah, it really does.
It doesn't look just like it's been tanned.
It looks like it's wearing off.
Yeah, it doesn't even really look quite as like literally leathery.
Which I suppose would make sense because he tries to get a new face in this movie.
Right.
And the cast is great.
Yeah.
Arlie Ermey steals the show when he shows up.
Just.
I wouldn't say it's to the point where he upstages Leatherface in this movie because he's not in it as much.
But he is the best part of the movie.
He is the best part of the movie. You
And
have Jessica Biel.
Who's not bad. I think she's actually pretty good as a final girl.
And we talked about earlier how these movies like to repeat the same beats. The the shot of the girl walking, it's kind of focused from the waist down.
The low, the sort of bug's eye view.
Yeah. That's in almost all the movies in this franchise.
Yeah.
Just another thing to harp on for me.
Right.
But you have Jessica Biel, Eric Balfour, Jonathan Tucker, and
let me check.
I would say I know the blonde guy. He had a brief role in Bates Motel, and he was the main star in Under the Dome.
Yeah. 1 second. Let me.
I feel so bad because I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Mike Vogel.
I knew it was Mike something.
Yeah.
And then his love interest in this film.
Is that?
What's up?
Is that the right guy?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Yeah. I'll say because he was in. He was also in Cloverfield.
Mm.
And he was in that god awful Fantasy Island horror movie that came out like last year, I think.
I can't remember.
Oh, it's so bad. It's really bad. Anyway.
But this remake, I think it does a lot in paying respect to the original.
Yeah, I do too. And
I think it does try to do something different by kind of following different beats than the same. Like, I mean, maybe not, because you do find out it's a family thing, kind of late in the film, just like the original.
You do, yeah. It does a lot of repetition, but at the same time,
there is a hitchhiker, but the hitchhiker blows her brains out.
Yeah.
And when she does that shot,
there's a shot in that movie that is so impressive.
It goes from it literally zooms out
through the hole in the back of her head.
In the back of her head, and from the moment you see that shot, you should know exactly what you're in.
Yeah, it's like, okay, they're not pulling punches here.
It's going to be in your face. It's going to be violent. It's going to be exactly what a massacre movie should be.
Yeah.
And you get a lot more show and tell in this one than you do the original.
Yeah.
Because Mike Vogel's character, Andy, gets placed on the hook. And in the original, you see Leatherface about to prop the girl on it, but you don't see the hook go in.
Yeah.
You
see her sort of, but you don't see the hook.
You get it in this one.
Yeah,
and it is,
you see the hook pierce flesh in this one.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
Like, Mike Vogel goes through a lot in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, a big reason why people don't like horror films is that they think that they're sexist.
Yeah.
And they're degrading to women.
Yeah.
The men really get the brutal stuff in these films.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There are horror movies out there that are a sleaze fest.
Yeah.
And are degrading.
Sure.
But in overall, if you look at the picture, men get killed a lot more than women, and the men go through a lot more hell than women do in horror films, especially this one.
True.
Jonathan Tucker gets all of his teeth knocked out, and he gets chainsaw to the nuts, man.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah, this is one of those movies where it's like, they.
It's so mean. It's very mean spirited. But we get a survivor in this one.
Yeah, and again, this is one where it's like, you're right. The men do tend to get far more.
Because Eric Balfour,
they're violated far more.
Eric Balfour is the first to get killed. He gets an axe to the back.
Yeah.
And this is when we first see Leatherface. He axes him in the back. His body's still twitching. And it's so fast paced.
Yeah.
That it's brutal. Mm-hmm. And by the time he gets him behind that door and slams it shut, chills, man. And not only, but he's the first to die, and he gets it kind of quick. But then Leatherface goes, he takes his face,
Mm-hmm.
You go and you see it. Like you don't necessarily see him peeling the face off, but you know that's what he's doing.
Right.
Because they show plenty of shots of him like doing like
Yeah.
sewing, inserting needles
Yeah.
and things like that. It's brutal.
Yeah. It is. It is.
And Jonathan Tucker gets beat up by Arlie Ermy.
Oh man.
And an underrated scene.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is why Arlie Ermy is the best part of this movie. The
Yeah.
van. He has
That scene,
the
honestly,
two girls and Jonathan Tucker in the dirt, and Jonathan Tucker's character is very calm. And I think this is the sheriff knew that this was the character he had to break.
Mm-hmm.
He throws him in the van, and the exchange between these two is so intense. It may be the most intense thing.
Honestly, it might be my favorite scene in the movie.
With a little bit of humor.
Oh yeah,
But it's
dark.
It's dark.
It's dark humor, but
Like, he has him recreate the hitchhiker killing herself, hands this guy a gun, makes him put the gun in his mouth, wants him to, it kind of implying, I want you to pull the trigger,
mm-hmm.
and he takes the gun out and points it at the sheriff,
Yeah.
pulls the trigger, and it's not loaded.
Yeah, exactly.
And the look on Ermy's face, it's so comical, yet chilling.
Yeah, just that, like,
Because Tucker's in a lot of
there's
trouble.
such a, like, gotcha. Like, it's...
Well, I love the line that he gives. He's
Yeah.
like, well, looky here. We got ourselves a killer. Only this time, you killed the sheriff.
Yeah. Oh, man.
It makes me laugh, but it's dark humor.
Yeah.
Can we just dub in, you killed the sheriff, but I
Did not shoot the deputy.
But you see, Arlie Ermy, like, tortures and beats this
His
kid.
glee is part of what what adds to the dark humor, is how much he's enjoying this.
Mm-hmm. He, like, throws him in the mud, kicking. He has him handcuffed, and, like, later you can see he either stabs him with some or shot him, because
Yeah.
there's, like, a little hole
Mm-hmm.
in his back when Jessica Biel finds him.
Yeah.
And then Mike Vogel's character, Andy, him and Jessica Biel run into Leatherface. He gets her to get away, and then he gets his leg cut off.
Mm-hmm.
He gets set on the hook, literal salt to his leg wound.
Mm-hmm.
And he tries to get down but can't. And when Jessica Biel finally finds him, he has her kill him so he doesn't have to suffer.
Yeah.
The music in that scene
Mhm.
is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the build up to her stabbing him, it's
Yeah.
it's tragic what happens
Oh, yeah.
to these guys.
Oh my God, yes.
And the other female character, Pepper, she probably gets a gruesome death, but she kind of gets off easy compared to the guys. She gets the chainsaw. But what a shot with Jessica Biel looking at Leatherface. You see the feathers from her coat, from Pepper's coat, flying up as he's killing her, and then you see him turn around and you see Jessica Biel having to see that Leatherface is wearing her boyfriend's face.
Yeah.
And you see the quick of shock, sadness, and oh shit, I need to run.
Yeah.
Like, Jessica Biel really does do a good job in
She
this movie.
does.
It's just Arlie Ermy was in it, and he outshone everybody,
Because
quite frankly.
yeah, I mean, how does that not happen when you have Arlie Ermy in a movie?
Yep. And,
In a prominent role, I mean.
and as dark and as mean-spirited as this movie is, what makes it work for me is Jessica Biel does get her revenge on these people.
Mm-hmm.
They had kidnapped a baby from the last family they ran across. Jessica Biel saves the kid,
Mm-hmm.
and she cuts off Leatherface's arm. After she had a chance to get away, she's like hiding in a meat locker,
Yeah.
a literal meat locker.
Which
And,
that scene is great. The little
it is.
the chase through the freezer.
Yeah, the chase in the slaughterhouse
Yeah.
is really underrated. It has
Mhm.
a final girl chase.
Yeah.
And she tricks Leatherface and cuts his arm off with a meat cleaver.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it happen.
Yeah.
You see each chop.
Yeah.
And Leatherface, like, writhing in pain is so satisfying to watch.
Yeah.
Like, as shocking as it is, like, finally something bad has happened to this dude.
Yeah.
and it's like an arm for a leg.
Yeah.
And R. Lee Ermey gets his comeuppance big time.
Oh, yeah.
Jessica Biel runs him down,
Yeah.
backs up over him, and runs him over again. And I think that's what makes it work for me, is even though she goes through hell and she loses all of her friends, she gets her payback. And what makes this movie work is that these teenagers in this movie, I'm not going to say are necessarily well written, but you can feel the emotional weight.
Yeah.
You can
they feel like people.
They feel like people, and you can see how much they care about each other, even though the majority of them had just met.
But there is a good dynamic between them.
I would agree.
Well, it's kind of like with Sally and Franklin in the first one. It's like there's an obvious relationship here.
Good point. And speaking of the first one, it is obviously the number one.
No contest.
It is so head and shoulders above everything else in this franchise. My number one, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, 1974.
That one's in probably my top 20 horror movies. I
think it may be in my top 10. But again, I'm more into slashers.
Right, yeah.
But what can we say about this movie that has been said?
Yeah, I mean, it's like... It's...
The very uncomfortable dinner scene.
Yeah. Which also then features some
with Grandpa.
It's like that scene is so grimy and uncomfortable, and then it like
I think what makes it even
then
so uncomfortable and claustrophobic is the zoom in on
Yeah.
Sally's face as she's screaming.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be there. You want this thing to be over.
And then the dark humor sort of creeps up on you, and you realize that you're laughing at this scene.
And the ending is
iconic. She gets away.
She gets away, but at what cost?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because, and this is where all the other movies get it wrong.
Yeah.
Sally gets away, and we get our iconic Leatherface going crazy, spinning the chainsaw, but the real focus for me is Sally.
She's traumatized. Screaming
in terror, laughing hysterically that she got away, like screaming, crying.
Yeah.
All of it. So many emotions flooding over her body. And that is what makes it work.
Mm-hmm.
Not just Leatherface spinning with a chainsaw.
Yeah.
It's Sally who makes that final scene work. Those guttural screams, the hysterical laughter.
Yeah. She just has no idea how to feel about what's going on.
Exactly, but for her, the nightmare's over.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like, how do you feel about that?
Right. But so much PTSD.
Going through so much.
Yeah, that was she went to hell and back, and now she's like, she made it, but what
at what cost?
Exactly. She's never gonna be the same again.
All right. So before we get to your rankings, we'll do a quick recap. Number 8 for me, Leatherface 2017. It will never change. Number 7, Texas Chainsaw Next Generation. Number 6, Texas Chainsaw 3D. Number 5, Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Number 4, Texas Chainsaw Massacre The Beginning. Number 3, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Number 2, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Remake. And number 1, the classic Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So that is my list for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. I've talked enough about it, especially the one I hate.
Especially a particular one.
So let's just get into your list. And by the way, if Leatherface is not your bottom number, you're wrong. No pressure.
Right, clearly. Mine, my bottom one is the basic bitch answer. It's Next Generation.
Congratulations, you're wrong.
I knew you were gonna say it. That one to me, just like it was an unpleasant movie. It had a couple of moments that were like where there was unintentional humor. Again, with McConaughey just making noises. Just was pretty funny. But it was an ugly movie, but not in a way that felt like good exploitation. I think we were saying, like, with, and I'll get to the beginning in a little bit, but that one, it's not a particularly pretty or pleasant film, but it's good at that. Like, it's good at being.
Like the beginning is good at not
Yeah,
being a pleasant film.
the beginning. Yeah, it's like it's good at being, it's good sleaze, whereas this just felt very unpleasant, and
And it is sleaze. I do remember the scene where the matriarch of the family, or like the lead female villain,
yeah,
before we find out that she's evil, does have a moment where for like no reason at all she just flashes her tits.
yeah,
And I think it was just
to
like
teenage boys,
to cars driving by
Yeah.
honking their horns, and she was like, "Oh, you want to see these?"
yeah, like
Fun fact: I believe that role actually got turned down by a wrestler from WWE. Well, she wasn't more of a
Really?
wrestler, but she was more of a manager.
okay,
Deborah, Stone
Okay.
Cold's ex-wife. But
Really?
Before she broke into the WWE, she was offered the role and she wouldn't take it because she didn't want to, she didn't want to flash herself on camera.
respect.
Much respect to that.
Yeah. I think every actor is entitled to their boundaries.
Very true.
I don't think it's wrong inherently for an actor to say yes or no to doing anything. But anyway, yeah, that whole movie just it felt unpleasant, and Renee Zellweger just was. She was just an unpleasant person. Like, she mostly was pretty subdued, but when she did get, like, aggressive, she was just not likable. She was very frigid.
I wouldn't say it's like nails on a chalkboard
Yeah.
annoying, but it's almost like it comes off as like flat as cardboard.
Yeah, exactly. It's
I know she's supposed to be fed up, but it just felt weird, and not in like
It
a
feels-
Texas Chainsaw weird. It just
Yeah.
felt pretty sad.
yeah, it didn't feel absurd or pulpy. It just felt like what? It was just like the whole movie is just very unpleasant. It's a very miserable movie.
One of the worst parts in the films that I actually didn't talk about, it's the dinner scene, like all these movies have to have.
Yeah.
And Renee Zellweger is watching this cannibal family just act so dumb
Yeah.
and belligerent, and they're going crazy. And she just stands up and she says, "Hey, bro, I'm out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done." And she stands up. She's like, "I'm leaving, and no one's gonna stop me."
Yeah.
Leatherface stands up and shrieks.
Yeah.
But it's one of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she literally, the line from the movie, she points at him and goes, "You sit the fuck down." And he does it. He does
This
it.
is
He
the
sits
worst
down.
Leatherface. Like
It is the worst Leatherface.
Like, even in the movie Leatherface, where he's not even really Leatherface, like, he's still a better Leatherface
only
than
because
this.
he's as charismatic as Ted Bundy. But that
Right.
I still think that movie is worse.
I still
than
know you
Next
hate
Gen.
that movie more, but
I
I'm
hate
like,
that
but
movie,
this,
I do.
but this is like this.
At least it came off to me that Next Generation, yeah, we're trash and we know it,
Yeah,
and we're not going to try, but we are going to have fun, and that at least it seemed like the performers were having fun. I'd have to look into it. Maybe they
Yeah.
did, maybe they didn't.
It-
But with Leatherface, it's just downright depressing, and there's no one likable in the movie. I guess there's really no one likable in Next Gen, unless you just
I was
are a
gonna
Matthew
say,
McConaughey fan.
I would say, which I am, and even then, I'm like, dude.
His name's Vilmer, by the way.
Yeah.
The character name
Yeah,
is Vilmer
Vilmer.
in this movie.
Yeah, and I'm watching this, I'm like, dude, who hurt you? Like, in this movie.
Literally, what's up with that?
Right,
line?
right. It's like when I mean, it was like seeing Bruce Campbell in Cars 2, where it's just like, are you okay? Do you need a hug? Or hearing him. I guess you didn't see him in Cars 2, but it's like, are
You know Bruce Campbell's voice when you hear it.
Oh yeah, but it's just like, do you need a hug? You okay, buddy? But Cars 2 isn't this bad, but it's like it just was not a good Bruce Campbell role.
And this was not a good Matthew McConaughey
No,
role.
it's kind of like, did you ever see this god awful kids movie called To Catch a Yeti?
No.
It was one of those just.
What is it with you and knowing like terrible films?
I'm a bad movie aficionado. Like I love
God.
laughing at bad movies.
I know, but we'll save that episode for another time.
I'm the guy that comes in like.
That's a different type of horror.
Right, yeah, I'm the guy that comes in like, all right, guys, who wants to watch Cool Cat Saves the Kids? Or something like that. Or,
It's people like you, why Cats the Musical happened.
I laughed my ass off at that movie. I'm like, all right, guys, who wants to watch Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas?
Any other notes about next gen?
Yeah, sorry, but I was going to say, in the movie To Catch a Yeti, Meatloaf is in it as this, like, grizzled bounty hunter, Big Jake Grizzly. And he's, like, this guy who's trying to track down this Yeti. And it's like, Meatloaf is genuinely, like, doing a pretty good job. But
the rest of the film
But
sucks.
it's so bad that, like, I can't even really call that a redeeming quality.
And I guess and I'm assuming that's what you're saying about McConaughey in this film.
Yeah, it's like
he's the best thing about it.
It's
but
like he's not even bad necessarily, but
just that
there's no redeeming this movie.
He's just dragged down by literally everything
it's
else
like
in
at
the
a certain
movie.
point you can't even redeem it.
For
but-
me, that's Leatherface. But
Right. Well, my number 7 is actually Texas Chainsaw 3D.
I don't know if we can be friends. Why is Leather? We will get to it.
We'll get to
Number
it.
7, Texas Chainsaw 3D. Please explain.
So I've
why.
kind of talked about some of my feelings, when you talked about it, but this one felt like, this felt like, this was the one that frustrated me the most. Because
That's
I
fair.
was like, there was an idea. There was actually an idea
to
here.
bring together a group of remarkable people.
And I love the opening scene. The opening scene was great. Because you brought back Gunnar Hansen. You had Bill Moseley in it again as, what's his name? Drayton.
Drayton, that's right.
And was
Drayton
doing a
Sawyer.
great job.
And they even had the Easter egg of Marilyn Burns.
Yeah.
Marilyn Burns coming back at the
Very end as the
very
voice
end.
of the mom.
That's right.
And it was like, this felt like there was effort put into it, and that's almost makes it the face planting worse. Like, it felt like there was so much effort put into it, and when it just completely sucks, with that much effort put into it, it almost...
It does go off the rails pretty hard, pretty fast, and it does leave a very sour taste in your mouth.
Yeah, it's that's what I mean. It's like, it made me madder, because I was just like, you had something.
And they were clearly setting up for more.
Yeah.
Because Scott Eastwood's character,
Yeah.
who kind of at the end is revealed to be a bad guy, which we all saw coming, he lives. So they're clearly setting up for a sequel. But that's how bad it bombed.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it never got that sequel.
I
And quite frankly, I didn't want to see a sequel
No.
to where Leatherface is our hero.
No, I
He
didn't.
skins people alive. He's not a hero.
Right. To me, the stuff like that, it's a lot of what I think were the somewhat unfounded complaints about a movie like Joker, where if you're watching it, for a mature viewer, you watch it and recognize, no, he's not an anti-hero.
Maybe Texas Chainsaw 3D just came out at the wrong time, because we're getting a lot of villain origin stories that show that they're misunderstood or something made them evil. which we can get into that
Sure.
another time. But I hate that trend.
See,
quite
I don't
frankly.
hate it when they do it well, and I felt like with Joker, because with that one, I've talked about.
Joker is just straight up a good movie.
It is,
I very
it's-
much enjoy it.
and
I was
it-
referring to like things like Cruella and
Yeah. Maleficent.
Maleficent.
I fucking hate that one.
the
Even-
name literally means evil. Why are we trying to make her misunderstood?
Walt Disney, I believe, was the one who described her as the bride of Satan. But no, she's just misunderstood. Eat shit.
And you know, it's funny because in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, at the beginning,
Yeah.
Arlie Army, before he kills the sheriff, he has a conversation with them.
Yeah.
He's like, he ain't retarded. He's just misunderstood.
Stood.
But at least with that movie,
That was a joke.
not necessarily a
Well,
joke,
I mean,
but they almost use that as an excuse to do
Exactly,
the horrible things
yeah.
that they do. And and at least in that film, they're not, we are the good guys. Like, no, we're going to do some pretty messed up shit.
yeah.
In 3D, it's like, oh,
The movie's
swerve,
yeah.
they're
The
good
movie's
guys.
not. The movie isn't trying to tell you that. The character is.
Yeah.
And that was the thing with Joker, where it was like there was a point, and I've said this before. And anytime you're telling the story of a villain, there's a threshold that a character has to decide to cross, in a threshold in which they decide to abandon their humanity and become truly evil. They actually showed him cross that threshold in Joker. The minute he says, "I thought I would feel bad about killing those people, but I kind of liked it," that was our indication. Okay, he's past the point of no return. And I feel like if you do a villain origin story, you can do something like that. And if you're going to have them start off as somewhat tragic, but you have to have that point in there. You can't do the reverse, in which all of a sudden they're kind of misunderstood, unless they're completely abandoning the evil they used to do.
And which he is
Definitely not.
That guy is still going to be butchering people.
Yeah.
Still skinning people.
Yeah.
Still eating people. And the sheriff is literally going to let it happen. I mean, I get that there are bad cops in horror franchises, but Texas Chainsaw may have the worst cops. And that's saying a lot.
I don't know. Get Out.
That's for a different reason, though.
I know. But
I mean, even the Saw cops are better than this.
that's harsh. But yeah, that one just frustrated me, because I'm just like, you had some. It made me think of the Thing prequel, where I think the Thing prequel ended up being better than Texas Chainsaw 3D
Hands
did.
down by far.
But it was like there was effort, there was an idea, there was attention to detail,
Well, in the Thing prequel,
and that was a
a
studio. Yeah.
Yeah, that was straight up a studio thing. Like all the people involved knew the story they were telling, and it got butchered by the studio. It's with 3D, the people making the movie butchered the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the studio cut the budget of the Thing prequel, so they had to do really lame CGI, but the practical effects that were there were great. But anyway, that's just why Texas Chainsaw 3D frustrates me so much, because it's almost like the fact that it does have some pros to it makes it, bigger they come, the harder they fall. It kind of has that effect. But yes, my number 6 is Leatherface.
Okay, I was gonna say if you put it at number 5, I may walk out.
It's your house, and I may leave. But now the only reason this one is a little higher.
Please explain, because I don't understand.
I know.
I
will.
don't understand.
I know. I don't hate the Bonnie and Clyde stuff. It's not Texas Chainsaw. It's 100% not Texas Chainsaw, but I don't hate all of it. I don't like it, but I don't know. To me, I didn't have the same visceral hatred for it that you did. And
These characters are just so dumb. Like, at this point, why have the nurse with you?
yeah. Oh, no, I
'Cause
agree.
At this point, you have a chance to get away and not make any noise. Why have a hostage? Why drag along 2 other inmates who clearly don't want to be with you? At this point, you're hindering yourself.
Yeah. This one to me struck me more as dull and lifeless than it did
And there's
like,
not one good character in this entire movie.
Yeah. But again, this one struck me again, sort of it's sort of almost more like, again, Texas Chainsaw 3 Leatherface, where it's like, this is just kind of a dull, lifeless movie. It didn't strike me as like offensively just like, I hate this. It just struck me as kind of a this exists kind of movie.
I wish it never existed.
I know. But yeah, this one just I don't know. It was and again, this comes partly from me, sort of being often unable to take off the critic's glasses. Is I do have to be like, well, some of the cinematography was nice and stuff. I have to. It's like I can't really discard those kind of.
The cinematography does feel like a Texas Chainsaw film.
Yeah.
I'll give it that, but that's about all I can give it. There's just so much, kind of like what you said. It's just so lifeless.
Yeah.
It literally feels like this movie was made just so the studio couldn't lose the rights.
Yeah, this felt like an Amazing Spider-Man 2 or something like that, or where it was like this is a we need to hang on to the rights movie, or that the 90s like never released in theaters Fantastic Four movie, where they literally were like, we just need to keep the rights.
This is one of those straight to DVD films.
Yeah.
And I believe it was straight to DVD.
In most countries, I think.
Yeah.
I think it got a limited theatrical in the U.S.
In
maybe.
Texas.
Yeah, I think it got some festival coverage, but yeah. My number 5 is Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
That was my number 5 as
Again,
well.
what else can we say about it? It's a nothing movie.
It's a nothing movie, and it literally, after that WWE style entrance that it gives,
Yeah.
where you think you're in for a heck of a ride, boring. And I
Yeah.
understand that I got butchered by the studio a lot, but also just
Even with the gore, it was boring.
yeah, there was
Like there's a director's cut that can be tracked down, and I watched it, and it's like
really, you've seen the director's cut.
I think some of it, I don't know. It might have just been one someone cobbled together or something. I don't know if it was the full director's cut, but I watched it. And I'm like, it's better. It's not good.
I did like his look, but
Yeah.
that's about all I can give it. Is I like the look because Viggo Mortensen and Ken Foray is boring.
Yeah. How do you make a movie uninteresting with the two of them?
Can we just have a moment and just imagine Viggo Mortensen just turn around and look at the rest of the Sawyer family, just go for Leatherface. If we could have gotten that, this movie would be number 1.
It's like I always said, the way they could have saved the Dark Knight Rises, I think they could have saved everything about that movie is if Batman, when he's flying out over the sea or over the bay, he looks at the camera and goes, "Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb." But yeah, my number 4, again, same as yours. My number 4 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning.
I feel like our top 3 are going to be different, but
I'm
glad we see eye to eye on
our 2 and 3 are swapped.
Our 2 and 3 are swapped. Yeah. That's right.
But yeah, both of us really feel like this movie gets a bad rap.
Especially me. I know I love this one more.
I was like,
than
you love it. I like it. Yeah, like I get a lot of the complaints, but there are some that I just don't, and then there are some that I'm just like, yeah, but how does that bring the whole movie down?
For the people who say this is the worst one in the franchise, I feel like they only watched the top 4 films in this franchise.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they completely ignore, or maybe even forgot that Leatherface TCM 3 even exists. Like, did they just not watch Next Gen, or they just want to say it's better because it had Matthew McConaughey?
Yeah.
And they obviously never saw Leatherface.
Right. Most people didn't. Most people didn't even see it.
Of course they did, because it's a piece of trash, Will. But I don't understand the hate this movie gets. Yes, it's visceral and grimy, but to me, this is everything that a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie should be.
Yeah, this is, to me, what...
And how can you crap on Arlie Ermey's performance?
Again, like...
And Matt Bomer.
Yeah, again, like I said, if the pitch was... so everyone loved Arlie Ermey in the remake, we're going to give him his own movie. I'm like, you have me already. Like,
Yep.
why would I not want that movie?
And I don't care what anyone says. He did do so well in this movie.
He absolutely
You
did.
felt the tension every time his character was on screen.
Just the look in his eyes and I mean,
And you can tell the longer the movie went on, the farther down the rabbit hole
he just
that
kept-
character went.
yeah, he just kept getting closer and closer to the edge.
Like
And
there's a Uncle Monty. In the remake, he has no legs. He's got legs in this one. We all know what's going to happen. He's going to lose his legs.
Mhm.
And
when you said Uncle Monty, I thought you were talking about a series of unfortunate events.
no. Could you imagine though?
That would be amazing.
Imagine the kids running from Leatherface. Still would be a better movie than Leatherface, and quite frankly, the bottom four of this franchise. But he gets Leatherface to cut his first leg off because he got shot,
Mm-hmm.
and then he tells him, "Oh well, look at that. That's just sloppy.
Be-
That'll get infected. Even him up."
Yeah.
He's like, Monty's face is just like, what? What?
Yeah.
Leatherface cuts off the other leg, and then you kind of get this side shot of Ermey's face, and he's just, "I'll have Tommy clean this up."
Yeah.
It's really menacing, and the fact that he's willing to do this to his own family.
Yeah.
Imagine what he's going to do to someone who he plans to eat.
Yeah.
I feel this movie, it kind of went the Texas Chainsaw 3D route, but they did it the right way.
Yeah.
Whereas we do get a little more of a humanized Leatherface. You can kind of tell he's a tortured soul, but he is clearly psychotic,
Oh yeah.
and something is not right. And you don't ever want to root for him.
Yeah.
And you can kind of tell where he chooses the moment to not necessarily abandon his humanity, because there's no telling when he made that decision.
Exactly.
But you can finally tell when he lets all this rage come out, and that's when he kills his boss at the slaughterhouse.
And again, the beaming pride of Sheriff
Hoyt.
Sheriff Hoyt. Just that, what is it? There comes a time and
Every boy
was-
becomes a man.
man, yeah.
That sick, twisted admiration that we talked
just
about.
that. I mean, it's just Ermey is so good in this movie, and that brings me to my number 3, which is the remake. This is another one that you, me, and a lot of other horror people really feel like gets a bad rap. The remake is one of the better horror remakes.
I think it just came out at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Early 2000s was not good to horror.
Yeah, or at least certainly not for
Remakes.
hard R horror.
Yeah.
Because like you had the Scream movies, which were good, and then you had when did The Ring come out?
Maybe 2002?
Okay, so yeah, so you had a couple. So you had like The Ring.
Because I think The Ring and The Grudge came out like in back-to-back years.
No, The Grudge came out a little bit later.
Okay.
But no, it was, again, this was just when the sort of, I think I heard a horror critic that I like refer to it as the exploitation nostalgia boom was kicking in, when you first started having, again, this or Saw, Cabin Fever, House of a Thousand Corpses. These movies were just starting to sort of, emerge and kick off that sort of.
And I think a reason why, not almost.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I would say that
cutting
sort
you
of
off.
revival of hard R horror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Horror, hard R. It's a hard watch,
It is.
and it's not for everybody. And I think it left such a bad taste in people's mouths because people don't want to feel uncomfortable watching these movies. Yeah, they want to feel scared, but they don't want to be uncomfortable. They don't want to feel gross.
Yeah.
And you definitely get that with this movie.
Yeah, well, and part of that is because
Even Leatherface's look, his mask, it is in your face.
yeah,
The gore is, it's not the worst gore you've ever seen, but the graphic visuals that you get in this movie is definitely off-putting.
yeah,
Because
it's
poor Andy. Leg chopped off and set on the hook.
the whole scene in the van with Arlie Ermey, just essentially just intimidating them.
Into getting what he wants.
Yeah, and the whole thing with the gun, and then with the
And kudos to Jonathan Tucker, who was playing the teenager in that scene. Really an underrated actor, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you can see how he tries so hard to stay calm, but he just can't.
Yeah.
And I think Ermi senses it and forces him to break just
Mm-hmm.
for the excuse of, oh, you tried to kill the sheriff. Now I get to take you in.
Well, and the thing is, the movie that put Ermi on the map was Full Metal Jacket because he actually was a drill sergeant, in Vietnam, and so, the idea of him playing a character trying to break someone psychologically, it just works, because you get the feeling he actually might know how to.
True.
And it's like when you have a martial artist do a kung fu movie. It's like, yeah, they actually know what they're doing.
And man, the guys in this movie get it so bad.
They do.
Like, Andy goes through a lot of torture. Morgan, Jonathan Tucker's character, gets the crap beat out of him. Once Ermi has his hands on him, it's a bad day for him.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric Balfour's character, of course, he's the one who takes his face for the next mask.
Yeah. And of course, we can't not just, we can never gush enough over that opening thing with the hitchhiker and the crane shot through the bullet hole.
That is a very ballsy shot for its time. And
for the opening scene.
Right.
I mean, it was a great way for them to say right off the bat, we're not fucking around.
And yeah, because that's an amazing shot that people I don't think enough of people appreciate because it's so gross.
Right.
Like they can't yes, it's gross, but the shot itself is genius.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think a lot of people are kind of, I think it took a few decades for people to feel that way about like The Exorcist or something like that. And I think now people are finally starting to realize that about this one, where it's like the gross factor kind of blinded everyone to how well done it was. And I think that's kind of finally starting to happen here.
Fair point.
I wouldn't say that this movie is as good as The Exorcist, but it's
no, of course.
But
a lot of movies can't get that good.
Right. But it's classic for a reason. But yeah, I think as far as like that particular moment where it's like the technique here is so good, and I think people are finally starting to realize that.
I mean, it was also done by one of Michael Bay's studios as well, Platinum Dunes.
Yeah.
And I think as much shit as he gets, he knows how to film.
His shot composition is not his weakness. But my runner up is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And again, this is what I describe as, and this can either go really well or completely go to shit. This is what I refer to as a fuck it sequel, where the director didn't even really want to make a second one. But
did he get goaded into it?
I don't know the full story, but I know that when he finally agreed to do one, he did not want to make the same movie. He wanted to go in a totally different direction, so he wanted to make a horror comedy.
And I think that's the biggest reason why you have it at number 2 and I have it at number 3. You're more of a horror comedy fan than I am.
Yeah, that tends to be my.
Because I won't deny that it's a good movie.
Right, that tends to be my favorite type of horror in a lot of ways. Like I said, I'm wearing a Sam Raimi T-shirt right now, but my favorite horror movies are like the Evil Dead movies and The Frighteners and Creepshow and The Howling, Fright Night, stuff like that. But but I think it did that really well, and knowing that that's what Hooper wanted to do, to me makes it go, okay, he succeeded in doing exactly what he was trying to do. That's worth celebrating. And I think Dennis Hopper is really funny in it. I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy that played Drayton in the first one.
I can't remember his name either.
But he comes back and sells every minute of it, every minute of his screen time. Obviously, Bill Moseley just as Chop Top.
And again, nothing. And Leatherface is good in this movie.
Yeah.
It's just that Bill Moseley as Chop Top is more menacing.
He steals every scene.
And I think it's because he can use dialogue where Leatherface can't.
Yeah, and also because I think the fact that he is funny sometimes almost makes him that much more threatening.
Well, and I feel like you lean into the horror comedy aspect. Chop Chop is more horror, and Leatherface is more comedic in this movie. Because you get
to a degree, but
get the scene with him thrusting the chainsaw like a penis.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah,
Which I could have gone without.
You get more physical gags with Leatherface, but in this, it's like the fact that Chop Top is, cracking wise and stuff like that, that almost makes it even scarier. Because you're like, does he even take this seriously? Or is this, like, how much fun is he having? It's, there's a... I really like that aspect of it. And Stretch is a great final girl, I think.
I would agree. I think she's an underrated final girl.
I think she's a very underrated final girl.
I don't think she's as good as Sally.
Oh, sure.
I think she's a little more fleshed out than Sally.
Yes.
But, I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of the, recreating the ending of the original with Stretch. For me, it didn't work.
Yeah, that was a little weak.
A little too on the nose.
It was. But
I believe it's Jim. I'm probably gonna butcher his last name. Jim Sadow.
Seadow.
Who
Something
played
like
Drayton
that.
Sawyer.
Yeah. But
I felt like his comedic timing in this movie definitely went way up, especially presenting the the chili with the secret
the fact that it had to
ingredient.
do with the whole chili cook-off thing, like that was a really funny way to go. If you're going to go in a comedic direction, it went in exactly the right comedic direction.
He almost looks nervous.
Yeah.
Like a weird nervous confidence as he's like presenting this chili.
Yeah, it's like there's still that fear of, are they going to figure it out? And also as one who loves and has played Sweeney Todd, there's that element of that's always going to be near and dear to my heart.
I wasn't a big fan of Sweeney Todd, but
the movie? Oh, I don't like the movie.
Well, I'm not big into musicals either, like you are. So.
Right. I don't like the movie. I do not like the movie. They did not cast the appropriate singers for that movie.
And we can talk about that another time.
That's a subject for another day.
Obviously, your number one is the original.
Is the original. The original is just one of, it's in my top 20 favorite horror movies. What can we say that hasn't already been said?
It's groundbreaking.
It is.
Because a lot of people will forget about this fact. It came out before Halloween.
It did. And also...
It came out the same year as Black Christmas.
They
did. Both came out in 1974.
Right.
And I think they both did a massive service to horror.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of people forget that the first Texas Chainsaw movie wasn't incredibly bloody.
No, it wasn't. It's just so shocking.
And it's so gross. The atmosphere is so gross because it's all handheld.
Yeah.
The camera work is all handheld, and it's very claustrophobic, like in the van. And
you almost can feel you can almost feel Texas sweat on your body.
Yeah, like you can
watching this movie.
You can feel the sting of the sweat and the dirt, and like
you can feel the grime.
Yeah,
it puts you there.
Right.
That's what I think is probably the strongest point of this movie. Is it puts you right there with it when.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why all these movies have a dinner scene, because the dinner scene is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And
it's hilarious.
The close up with Sally screaming.
Yeah, and then the quick zoom out.
It puts you there with it.
That's terrifying. And then again, they go to this hilarious gag with the trying to hold the hammer.
Oh my lord.
Like, the joke catches you off guard because
no one does killing better than Grandpa. It's funny yet disturbing because when you see his body earlier, you totally think
it's
dead.
just like a corpse that they have you think it's like a Norma Bates type thing.
And then they wheel him out and you kind of think he's still dead, and then he moves.
Yeah, it's like he just kind of slightly moves and you're just like, Jesus!
And then he tries to swing the hammer and it gets
right, and it's just it was like, okay, so yeah, they're that's where they're going with this.
And we also get a slight character development from Leatherface in this scene because he switches out his normal mask for what appears to be a more feminine mask.
Yeah.
And he puts on an apron, he's setting the table, and I think he kind of hushes Sally at one point.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden he has to be the mom.
Right? Or like some form of caretaker for the rest of
them. You really see, and it also kind of gives you an idea of, okay, this is what he thinks fancy is.
And it also has the dinner scene also has one of my favorite lines in the movie, and it's from Drayton Sawyer.
Yeah.
And I'll never boast about it enough. You know, when he's looking over at Sally, who's just terrified, and
Yeah.
he just says, "I take no pleasure in killing. There's just some things you got to do. Doesn't mean you have to like it." Like, how does, like, it's dark humor at its best.
That really
and I
is.
don't even know if it's intentionally meant to be funny. But-
Toby Hooper was clever enough that, like, if there was dark humor to something, you know it was on purpose.
But it's like with Drayton Sawyer, it's not as menacing or as cruel as R. Lee Ermey, but you can see with that line just how evil he is.
Yeah, exactly.
And just how much danger Sally really is in.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't even care. He's like
She's literally a piece of meat.
He's not even doing this because he likes it. He's doing it because he thinks that's what he's supposed to do, which is even scarier.
There's nothing more scary. There's nothing as scary as a villain who feels justified in their actions.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Drayton Sawyer definitely feels justified.
Yeah. And again, I think, I don't know if, again, with the exception of Next Generation and Leatherface 2017, I don't know if there's ever been necessarily a bad performance of Leatherface. There have been better depictions of Leatherface.
I would say Next Generation is a pretty bad performance from Leatherface.
That's what I'm saying is other than...
other than
Next Generation
Next Gen and Leatherface.
And 2017 Leatherface. But, like...
Well, and again, 2017 just tries to they swerve you.
Yeah, it's a curveball for the sake of a curveball. But Gunnar Hansen just... There's... And again, I think I've described it this way before. Andrew Bernarski's Leatherface in the remake and then...
The prequel to the remake.
The prequel to the remake. He's much more aggressive. He's, charging at people. He's, there's much more intent. Whereas Gunnar Hansen's Leatherface is just kind of a mountain. He's just kind of this mountain of a man who's just sort of moving along, just kind of this ever-approaching...
Very clunky.
Yeah, exactly. And I describe it as Andrew Bernarski's Leatherface is the unstoppable force. Gunnar Hansen's Leatherface is the immovable object.
Which is a great way to put it. And those two are obviously the best Leatherfaces by far.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's just whichever one you prefer.
It really
of
is.
who you think is better.
Yeah.
And fun fact, they didn't get along in real life.
I know.
And I think it was because they both felt a certain way about the character.
Yeah.
Because Andrew Bernarski kind of creepily would say, "I was born to wear the mask."
Yeah.
Which I'm glad you have. I'm glad you have that much compassion.
Yeah.
But that's Texas Chainsaw.
Texas Chainsaw.